I believe that the fires we're cast upon are the flames we shall become. I believe in a common calling where our temples pray as one. I believe in the word of wonder and a kingdom for the saved.
Larry Pollock here this morning with IFBB Pro Helle Trevino. Helle's in Tanzania right now. So,
Yep.
what time is it there for you right now?
It's a little after 8 p.m. So we're good 11 hours difference, I think.
Yeah, it's about 9:14 right now here.
Right.
So I actually Helle and I go back a little bit. I first met you in, I want to say it was 2014 or 2015, and at Gold's Gym.
You're right.
Gold's Gym in Venice, and I was dating a female bodybuilder named Stephanie Bernacki, who happened to be Helle's training client. So I went down there to Gold's with Stephanie, and that's where I first met Helle. So we've known each other for a minute. So Helle, whoops, I think we lost her for a second. I'm sure she'll be back on. She should. I think she got disconnected. Well,
I got kicked off.
Oh, I don't know why. Okay.
No, I don't know.
So anyways,
I mean, it is also a far connection, like Africa. And where are you at now? You're still in California?
Ventura, California.
Yeah, we go back. I mean, I moved to LA in 2012. So it sounds about right that we probably met around 14.
Yeah.
So we go back a few years. So yeah, I was training your girlfriend at the time, and it was like still the golden days of Goals where everybody was there, Dexter Jackson, Sean Roden, and I mean, who wasn't there? Like,
Right.
Jay Cutler was in Vegas at that time, but he was training there also frequently. So it was good times.
It was not quite the same, actually, when you got there as it was, I guess, when I started. I mean, I started back in the 80s. Whoops, we lost her again. You there?
Yeah, you're not really going through. Let me see if I change to my cellular data, if that's better. Because it sort of keeps going in and see. Let's try this.
So as I was mentioning, like I started back there in the 80s, and through the 80s, I guess through maybe the early 2000s, that's when Gold's was really, big, because Weider was still having the magazines, and a lot of people under Weider contract all lived in LA. So most of the people were training between Gold's and World Gym back then.
Yeah.
And then
I mean, I already started coming there. Like my first time in LA was my first pro show was in 2003, and my first time to LA was 2004, where I came to train with Charles Glass. So that was still like, what can you say, the golden era. And then when I moved in 12, it was sort of like probably like the back end of it. That was still like a few good years, and then it was like poof, everybody scattered.
Yeah. I think really when COVID happened is when everybody took off.
That just killed it. I mean,
Yeah.
that really that was the end of goals, unfortunately. I was back last year after the Olympia. I stayed in LA for a couple of months, but it was like I barely knew anybody anymore there. It was kind of
No,
weird.
totally changed.
Uh, Unfortunately,
Yeah.
I loved that gym for many years. It was my home base for 10 years. I trained for 2 seasons. I trained with Charles um, in the prep. So I have many fond memories from there.
How was it training with Charles?
I learned a lot. And I really liked his style also. When I chose to train with trainers, I mean, I've trained with a lot of different trainers. So Chris Cormier was in goals at that time also. I trained with him as well. Brandon Ray, like just several pros. And I mean, Charles has been like a staple, like already like 2004 was the first time I trained with him. And then I was getting more consistent training with him as I lived there. But, you know, he always had the style that I trained. You know, I've always trained very with feeling, you know, mind muscle connection, feel the muscle. But he was even like a step above that, you know, like he's really, really about technique and angles and how
Mhm.
to really like target like even like minor muscles. Like, say, if you want to bring up your teres minor, like how do you connect with such a small muscle, right? But he taught me literally to connect with any muscle in my body. He's really exceptional in the training technique field.
I've watched him train for years and years, like going back for as long as I can remember. And I remember like early 2000s, I would go once in a while when I'd be contest prepping to goals to train. And he'd be training his clients on all the different hammer strength machines, you know, holding onto the bars instead of the handles and different things. Um,
I mean, that's the thing, you know, that I was really intrigued about. Like, he taught me that, you know, even though it's a chest machine, you don't necessarily need to use it for chest or anything else. You know, it's like, you know, maybe
right,
it's a great angle for a row. You know, if you stand up on something, or you know,
right.
I've used a butterfly machine where you kind of like can stretch your lat like in a circle, and used it
Hmm.
as a row, and it hits the lower lat like crazy. You know, he taught me like to use the equipment in so many different ways. Like, you know, you do like a pull down behind the neck, right? And he would like put me facing out, and then have me sort of like uh pushed forward to the seat and really pull back, or he would have me do like a pull down to the chest and have me curl over basically the pads where you stick your knees over. I would
Right.
have that in my lower back and kind of like really curl over that to hit the depth. I mean, he was so creative, or he is, like, he's still training, not as much anymore, but he still is. And I mean, I don't know how old this guy is, but he just keeps going.
He's there all day, every day, from morning till night.
Yeah, he's there a lot.
But yeah, I used to train down there once in a while, and one thing I noticed is this is kind of like past when I think most of the big bodybuilders had left, but I always trained really heavy with intent, you know, heavy weights and a lot of intensity. And I
Hmm.
noticed when I would train, Charles would be training his clients, and they literally stop and watch me train, which at the time, I thought it was strange because, you know, I didn't think I was anything special. But I was the only one in that gym there training hard.
Right.
Everybody, it seemed like everybody was, I don't know. No, I didn't see any intensity at that point.
Well,
really?
I also think like, I mean, I don't know how it was in the earlier days, but that sort of like back end of the golden era, what we should call it, just a lot of people came in the mix, like Google was across the street. So a lot of sort of like just gym bros came there that weren't really that serious, that just kind of, I mean, it was a kind of in scene, like goals for like the in gym and just being there. I mean, socializing was a big part of it, you know.
Right.
So I think just there was a lot of talk going on, a lot of like, flexing and showing off, and sometimes not as much crazy training.
Yeah, like, well, when I first went there, it was a lot of crazy training. I mean, you had, all the guys getting ready for competitions, and people were training really hard. But then I remember early 2000s when I would go train there, I didn't see that anymore.
I think we were just like a few left. I mean, some people were training hard. Do you remember Luca Penassotti?
I know.
Italian, like really tall dude, Italian bodybuilder.
I think he trained with Charles, right?
He might have. He might. I mean, everybody sort of trained with Charles at some point. He was like super tall, like really like cute dude, like 300 pounds. He trained super hard, and he became my training partner at some point, and we really killed it. I mean, it was like I remember 6 plates on each side of the hack squat, and
Right.
I've had different like periods. Like I like to train heavy as well, and I've also had my periods where like I really went like hard and heavy, and then I had other periods like that was a lot like pre-contest, like where I would have trained with Charles Glass, and it would be more like very very concentrated, not as heavy weights, very deliberate,
Right.
very targeted, which also makes sense contest, pre-contest, because you want to be careful of injuries as well, and not just,
Right.
it's not so much about building muscle and making strength gains and stuff in that period. But I will say also my training has changed more towards that. I mean, I've always loved to train like you also, like hard and heavy, but like I said, I've taken periods with different types of training, which I also think is great. Like you periodicize, and I think if you train hard and heavy all your life always, you end up with a lot of injuries. I think it's good that you kind of have this periodization where you train, I'm not saying light, but just there's a difference of like, like you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squeeze
Yeah.
and slow back, right? Or even if you go like a explosive back, hold a squeeze, and really slow on the negative, that's going to be so much taxing. The more time under tension you have, the more taxing it is. Like for like in comparison of like, say you do a deadlift and you're like, it's just
Yeah.
more explosive, than the slower you more you slow down the rep, and the longer the muscle is under that tension, the harder it gets. So you're still going to failure. You're just really slowing down the reps and really focusing in your mind of hitting like an isolated area. So I've been like changing up my training a lot. Like I said, especially pre-contest, I've been going more like Charles Glass style, and then in the off season, I'd really love to hit it hard and heavy and see if you could make those strength gains. I mean, it's fun also, like if you are having a good off season, you feel like almost like every time you're down training back, you're getting like a new PR.
Hmm. For me, it was I pretty much trained the same, which was like really heavy and intense for all the way up until I want to say maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
Do you
And then
feel like it wrecked your body though, or like that it's took its toll?
well, I had to change up my training to some extent just because of injuries.
Right.
And it wasn't like huge injuries. It was just, like shoulder, just I had a rotator cuff tear and I had to rehabilitate that. And I tore my tricep tendon, but that wasn't training. That was a bar fight. But my left knee is I think I tore every tendon in there over the years, but it still works.
Right.
I'm still able to train pretty heavy on it. I just have to wrap it up. But but I have had to switch to more machines and less free weights, and just to not beat up my body so much anymore.
Right.
But I don't think, like, the way I'm training now is more the way that you were describing, more machines and slower motions and all of this. I don't think I would have put on that size initially if I had trained like that from the beginning.
Right. Don't you
there's
think
a
if
time,
you would have periodicized, you still would have?
right?
Because I mean, there's also something to be said about changing things up, right? And not doing the same all the time, and the body gets used to it. And I also think, I mean, if we're talking pets, there's certain times a year, like off season, where you're enhanced, that you can really, you just, everything's stronger, your joints feel better. It's the body is sort of like, it gets better equipped to lift heavy than when you're off. Like, it's, when you're off, I feel like you need more recovery. You
Right.
can't train as heavy, your joints are more brittle and stuff. So I think that's also where my periodization has been, where I said, okay, if I'm on and I say, okay, now I take like a whatever 12 or 16 weeks strength cycle, and I'm really like packing on that muscle, and then I'm taking a break, and then I'll like train a bit more, like a bit more volume, more for hypertrophy, more Charles Glass style.
Right.
And then as I was jumping on again and go for another one, I would hit it hard and heavy, because there's something to be said to train that way. I mean, now these days we're talking a lot on social media and stuff, like old school versus science-based, right? And I think there's something to say about both, but it's like, I do think to really build a lot of size, you do need overload. I mean, you do need to load the muscle. I mean, of course, time under tension, different techniques, supersets, drop sets, giant sets, stuff like that, I think is also effective. But I believe a lot in periodization, both for sparing your joints, like recovering your joints in between the heavy cycles, and just shocking the body. Just, okay, now we're going to do something completely different.
That's a mental thing I had to get over, because if I go in the gym and I don't feel like I killed it, then I don't know, somehow in my head, it's like I didn't really train.
Right. I mean, it's two different ways of training, because, when you go in and you do maximum lifts on like almost every single set, I mean, you go to failure, you keep loading as much as you can stack on. I mean, it's hard, and you get really exhausted. And I also think you really get like super exhausted in your whole body, like your nervous
Yeah, your
system,
central nervous
everything,
system.
it gets so taxed. But then if you train more hypertrophy, slow training, supersets, drop sets, all of that, I think you get really, really taxed in that muscle. You're not so fried in your body. But say if I said, okay, I want to focus like upper back, right? Mid back, upper lats, and I just pound that, and I keep hitting those angles. And it's not about training, like, what can I say? Because don't get me wrong, it's not about training light at all. Like I would still stack as much weight as I could on it, but maybe I wouldn't go down to 5 reps, 6 reps. I would maybe stay in more like the 10 to 15 rep range. And then I would just like, fry it on the continuous tension part. But it would still like be going to failure, and the muscle would be damaged.
So I actually do I've developed my own kind of training method where I do a combination of higher reps and lower reps, finishing with drop sets.
Right.
So I'll start with like a set of 20 with a lightweight, and then my next set will be 15. And it's still 20 to close to failure, but it's 20 reps. So obviously you can't use that much weight with it. Right. And then a set of 15. And again, I'm going to about failure at 15. And then it'll be a set of 10. And then I'll do a drop set that'll be like 5, 5, and 5. And that'll be my heaviest set. And I find I don't feel like I get injured doing that.
Right.
Maybe,
but you can say also you really sort of warm up well, because if you start with 20, I mean, even if you go to failure on 20, it's still like you're not going to be able to lift the same with 20 as you're going to be with like 6 reps.
Yeah.
So, I think it's interesting, like everyone you talk to who's been training for a long time sort of have developed their type of training system, right? I mean, it's like you got to figure out what's works for you also. Like every body type is different, right? And some people, they need a little bit more of that, and some people need a little bit more of that. So,
well, my training evolved over the years, just mainly, having to work around injuries and avoid injuries. And I feel like some of the higher reps are more just pumping blood into the muscle, and there's something to that. And then, but you need some heavy movements just to stimulate those deep fibers.
Yeah.
So far, I've been pretty good as far as I can't say I've had any injuries in the last 5 years.
Well, maybe you found an approach that really works. That's what I was talking a little bit about earlier. I think it's dangerous always to train super heavy, like, low reps, super heavy, put a lot of toll in your body. I mean, look at Ronnie Coleman, he's someone who really busted his ass and trained hard and heavy. And it's like, I think he's a little bit like the scary example of like what can happen if you really just go all out, on that. I mean, I don't think it's necessary to always go super heavy to grow.
I have a theory on Ronnie Coleman.
Let's hear it.
I don't think his injuries came from necessarily the amount of weight he was lifting. It was
you don't think like 800 pounds in squats would like fuck your knees?
No. I think it was a combination of the amount of weight he was lifting in combination with the amount of volume he was doing. I know there's a lot of power lifters, including myself. Look, I squatted 820 pounds.
Wow.
And in competition. And I was 242 when I did that. And Ronnie squatted 800 pounds for a double, and he was like 300 pounds when he did that.
Right.
So I squatted just as much weight as he did, but I don't have those injuries that he has. But I also would train legs. First of all, I would only squat every other week with a barbell.
Mm.
One week I'd squat with a barbell, and the next week I would do hack squats and leg presses to leave my lower back alone. So I kind of alternated back and forth, because I found if I did heavy squats and deadlifts every week, after a few weeks, my lower back would be shot out and I
Yeah.
actually start regressing.
Right.
And there's a lot of powerlifters that are stronger than he was and don't have the injuries he does. But it was the constant pounding over year after year after year. The guy never let up.
Right.
You know, he was
So
training.
heavy,
He was training
heavy and volume.
6 days a week, training each body part twice a week with the heavy weight. So
That's a lot.
I think probably what happens is, you know, your muscles are not recovered yet, and you go back and train heavy again. And
I mean, recovery plays a huge role, and really, it's not just recovery of your muscles; it's also your joints.
no, what I'm saying, the muscles are not recovered from the workout 3 days ago,
Right.
and now you're going in there and you're pounding it again, and so now your tendons and ligaments and joints and everything are having to take the abuse, because
Right.
you really can't handle it.
Yeah.
And even Ronnie with the freak genetics, he was able to grow doing it, but like his like you said, his connective tissues and joints and everything else wasn't ready for that yet.
Mm.
I've tried, you know, doing more volume, and I could tell right away that I just wasn't recovering
Right.
if I train it too often. Like
Yeah.
I once started training with some power lifters, and they deadlifted every week, and I tried that, and like I said, after like 3 or 4 weeks, I started regressing because my lower back was just so shot out, it wasn't recovering. So
Right.
then I switched to where like 1 week I would squat with a barbell, and the next week I'd deadlift. And on the week that I'd squat with a barbell, my back workout consisted of like rows and pull downs and different back exercises, but I wouldn't beat up my lower back. And then the week that I would deadlift, I would do the hack squats and the leg press, because it was just too much all in 1 week. I couldn't recover from it. And that was when I was at my top. I was weighing between 242 and 250, and my recovery was good, but still, your body can only take so much beating at one time.
Mm. Yeah, I agree. I think recovery is a huge factor. I mean, something like, I think every bodybuilder I know, they're guilty of training too much, including myself.
Well, we all love to train, but I grew up initially training with like Rich Gasperi and Lee Haney, but then I lived with Mike Menser for a year, and he taught me his heavy duty style, and
How was
really
it to train with him?
It was super
he
intense.
didn't do much volume, did he?
No, we would do literally like 1 or 2 warm-up sets, and then we'd do this all-out set, crazy all-out set with force reps and negatives. And that year I almost used all Nautilus machines the year I trained with him. Very few free weights. It was almost all Nautilus machines.
Right.
And I did grow on it. What I found was when I trained with him that year, I did gain size and strength, but my conditioning wasn't as good because we trained so short. And we'd go ride bike on the beach, but it just wasn't enough volume. So I think I felt like I have adopted. I've changed it a little bit since then. And what I mean by changed it is we do like 2 exercises for a body part, and that was it.
Wow.
You do 2 exercises. Like,
that seems so little. Like if you train back or legs, it's like,
that's what I'm saying. Like I felt like I really.
I feel like if I did that, I feel like my body would laugh at me.
Well, the training was super hard.
Right.
Because we go crazy intense, but still, like back has so many muscles to it. You have to do multiple different angles to just hit all the
That's
different parts
what I
of it.
mean. How are you gonna hit your upper lats, your lower lats, your rectors, your mid back, like your traps?
Yeah, I'm saying like so. So now I still train sort of the same. I'll do like the couple warm up sets and then the all out set with the drop set. But I'll do like multiple different exercises. Like for back, I'll probably do 5 or 6 different exercises in a back workout.
Mm,
So I'm still only doing the one set to failure on each movement, but
right,
but at the end of the day, I'm doing what 10 sets to failure on back
right,
and then warm up sets in addition to that.
right.
So, but it worked for him. I mean, look, he had an amazing back.
Mm-hmm.
I just I felt I could do a little bit more.
But also, I mean, there's two factors here. Also, like for those that are listening, that may be getting confused. Like, okay, so how do we train? How do we need to train now to gain size, right? And a big thing to it is like, you gotta be in touch with your body. And like also everything you described, with like I tried this and that worked like this, and you gotta monitor your body, and you have to try some different types of training. I think it's gold to train with others. You said you trained with Rich Gaspari, you trained with Mentor, you trained with, you said a couple other guys. It's like you learn from everybody. I trained with Rolly Winkler, I trained with Chris Cormier, I trained with Brandon Ray. I trained with like multiple pros that I could, Luca we were training partners for a couple of years, and everyone taught me something, and I was always very open, like sort of like, okay, let me train your style, instead of going in and say, oh, we're doing that, that, and that. I was kind of like, well, I wouldn't do that to like Rolly Winkler anyway, but I wanted to learn, and I wanted to see, and I wanted to observe. So I'm like, okay,
Right.
I'll do your training, let's see, and there was always something to learn, and everybody has developed something, some type of technique or some type of doing things. And if you can keep putting stuff into your toolbox, you just get a bigger toolbox, right? That you sort of like, you put together what works for you. So, I encouraged everybody to really like try different techniques, train with them as many like qualified people as possible, who have experience, who you can learn something from. Um, and knowledge is gold, and you can sort of like start putting things together. Actually, the way you described there, I trained like that last year for the Olympia, where I would, most of the year, I would do it a little differently. I would do a warm-up set, maybe 2 if I had to, and then I would just, so my incentive was I wanted to go as heavy as possible, as quick as possible, because if you do the classic pyramid where you stagger and stagger, and you kind of go up in weight, right?
Mhm.
Slowly. Once you end up to the 4th set, if that's the last, or the 5th, and that's the heaviest set, you're already fatigued, so I tried to like, if I could on the 2nd set, that would be my all out set, and then I would have a back off. Because say if I do the first set would be like 12, 15 reps, and then I'll say, okay, I'm good, warm now. I'll go like between 5 and 9. And I would like have a logbook, so that I knew for my next workout what I lifted last week, and I would try and beat that. So anything between 5 and 9 was flying. So if I could do 10, that meant I had to go up in weight, and then
Right.
I tried to never have to back off. That I was like, okay, you lifted that last week, so now you have to do the same this week. And then the last set would sort of be like, okay, if I cheated a little bit or went like super explosive, I would be like, okay, let me do like a super good set for maybe 12 reps, like a back off, and really squeeze and really, get that mind muscle connection like 100%. But I would train twice a day though, but I would do like a whole lot more recovery than Ronnie. I would train Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and that was it.
Yeah, I've been on the 4-day split for as long as I can remember.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, if it works, it works.
The way I do it, I'll do like day one is chest and triceps, and then the next day's off, and then that next day I'll do calves and back, and the next day's off, and then the next day will be shoulders and biceps, and then legs the next day, and then I'm off for 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
So after every heavy workout, I don't consider shoulders and biceps like a heavy, really taxing workout. As hard as I go on, it's not the same. You're not doing heavy compound movements, really, and so literally after every heavy workout, I'm pretty shot out. But if I take that day off, then I can come back fresh on the following day, and I can train hard again. I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
My central nervous system is not beat up, and also I'm only training each body part once a week.
Right.
And I've tried different things, and I've tried adding in like, okay, let's try to bring up my arms. So I'll do like an extra arm workout. It didn't work. I always found on the second arm workout, I was weaker than I was on the first one. So it just, for me at least, I wasn't recovering from it.
Right.
And in 2005, I was actually prepping myself for the USAs, and I was driving down to Mexico periodically, and I stopped at World Gym down there, or it's now called The Gym. And I ran into Nasser, and I was about 6 weeks out from the USAs, and I was weighing about 230 pounds, and I was already pretty lean. And he looked at me and he said he was impressed, and he asked me if I wanted to prep with him for the rest of the prep. And I mean, like, this is Nasser. I'm like, oh yeah, for sure,
right? Right.
Well, he ruined me. I went
really.
I went from my normal training, which was, like I said, pretty heavy and intense, to we did this like really fast, high volume pumping stuff. I mean, at a relatively lightweight, because the reps were high, like 15 to 20 reps a set. And he'd go, I go, and we'd go really quick. And in addition to that, he had me doing cardio an hour with him every morning and abs. And he was.
And you weren't doing cardio before, or?
I have right now, with no cardio, I'm at 5% body fat. And when I started with him, I was already, like I said, I was 230 pounds. I was almost in contest shape. My body just doesn't put on fat.
You just should not have done any cardio.
Like, no, well,
that was just not necessary.
He insisted an hour of cardio every morning. Plus, he was starving me to death. So,
yeah.
In those 6 weeks, I went
You lost the muscle.
I lost 30 pounds of muscle.
Oh my God.
In 6 weeks, I lost 30 pounds of muscle. I went in there so dehydrated and messed up. I was like, went in at like 197, down from 230. I should have competed at around 225.
Yeah. I'm so sorry to hear that. That's just the worst, when you worked so hard. But
well, the worst part was like 3 weeks into it, I knew, I'm like, this is just, I'm shrinking, I'm getting weaker, and this is not working for me. I knew, but Nasser insisted. He'd tell me stories like Flex Wheeler would have to drag himself crawl to the stage. He was starving to death, and you got to suffer and this, that, and the other. And yeah, there.
Well, I think just we all have been there, and it's just like you gotta really learn to listen to your gut feeling. I mean, I've been there with a coach also who carved me up on broccoli and whitefish, like, and I knew, but he kept saying that this was the way to go,
Yeah, and that didn't work.
It's so important who you pick as a coach, and what I also learned was like, just because someone is an athlete and even a great athlete, that doesn't mean they're a great coach, because what they're doing, it might work for them, but it's like, as a coach, you have to understand everybody's body. You have to read the signals. You have to look at every single parameter of anything from their energy, from their mental state. Like if you start getting depressed, that's usually a sign that you're really fucking low on carbs and been for too long. If your weight starts dropping drastically, I mean, there are so many signs. And I'm also in hindsight, having had many coaches I've been a pro for 22 years. I've been competing since 1998. I mean, I've worked with a lot of coaches, and in hindsight, sometimes I'm thinking, how could you have allowed that? But it's like, many times it's also insecurities, right? Because you're standing there and you want to win, and you're not sure if your mind is playing tricks on you, and you're low carb, and you're having a bit of anxiety if you're where you need to be, and if you are lean enough, and somebody else is telling you that and say, trust me, I'm your coach, trust me,
Right.
this is the way. And you're like, it can be difficult.
Well, I've learned myself just training clients that I have to adapt the whole program, the nutrition, the training, to them and how they're responding to it.
Yeah.
And there's
100%.
People are different. Like if I think if Nasser wasn't a bodybuilder, he would have been a big 350-pound fat guy.
Right.
Because, he could do 3 hours of cardio.
I mean, body types plays such a big role. I mean, I have athletes right now where I have somebody eating less off season than another one I've had dieting on. It's just, somebody who's an ectomorph eats differently than somebody who's an endomorph.
Yeah.
Different body types, different
Totally.
metabolisms, sometimes also different age. It's just everything plays a, no one is the same, and
Right.
you have to be good at reading their body. And it doesn't matter if it's training or if it's dieting, prep, or whatever it is. It's just the longer I'm in this sport, the more I'm like, nobody is alike. Nobody is the same.
Last year I had guys prepping, and I had one guy, he was an athletic director, and I've trained him before, an athletic director at a school, and he's on his feet all day long. So he's walking around all the time, from morning till night, 5-6 days a week. And I already knew he has a fast metabolism, and he loses weight for pretty easy. So we did almost no cardio, and he's shredded. Another guy that I had, the fat just didn't want to come off, and I went straight keto on him for weeks, and he still kept getting stronger and growing into the show on keto.
I know, it's crazy.
But I had to adapt to what his body was doing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think some people they find what works for them and then they try to apply it to everybody.
Yeah. And that's the worst mistake.
No,
That's
I'm always trying
recipe
to,
for disaster.
I'll pick a starting point and then you have to adjust the training to, what's actually happening in front of you. If I see like everything's like the one guy, I did his diet in the beginning because I've prepped him before. So I kind of know how his body works. And I did his diet in the beginning and it was uh, relatively high carb, medium protein, not super low fat. And the calories were just below maintenance. And I didn't change his diet the whole prep. And he went from uh, 235, 240 at the beginning. It was a pretty long prep, about 16 weeks, but he lost a pound a week right up to the show and came in right on time. Everything, every week I'd see him and I'm like, don't change a thing. Everything we're doing is working. We don't need to change anything.
Mm.
And then the other guy, it's like it wasn't responding. So I had to go keto on him at the end, but it didn't.
Right.
He still kept getting stronger on no carbs. So some
I
people
know.
can
I
do
mean,
that.
some people they just really work well on it. I also had a woman on keto this year where it's also like she wasn't dropping, nothing was happening, and I'm like, I just didn't understand. Like even low carbs, like she just was not, you know. And we stripped the carbs and went full keto, and then things started happening, And I've had other people that came to me that had been with other coaches where they put them on keto and they were ruined. And I saw the pictures and they looked terrible. It's like people are so different. It's
Yeah.
uh, I had another client compete last year who pretty much she had probably the most crazy metabolism I've seen. She was like close to 3,000 calories dieting. Like how, and someone else is on keto, like 1,000 calories. Like,
Right.
uh,
And things can change, even in the same person over time.
yep.
I know when I was younger, I just could put on size a lot easier than I now, obviously. And it's just harder for me to keep the size on. I think it's because I'm older now. And
Yeah.
and I can't eat as much food as I could back then, no matter how hard I try.
Right.
So things just change. So you kind of have to adapt to whatever your body is doing or whatever your client's body is doing and where
Hmm.
they're at.
For sure. For sure. I think
I think
that's
that
what makes a great coach is just to be able to read those signs and read the body. And, like you said, I mean, it's sometimes you got to have ice in your stomach. You don't need to make changes. Like I'm sure you also have clients sometimes who's like, oh, we're not changing anything. Like they're almost like pushing for changes. It's like, no, we don't need to change anything. If it works, it
yeah, if
works.
it's
Like
not broken, you don't need
keep
to
it.
fix it.
Exactly. Let just keep the machine is running smooth. There is nothing that needs to be done.
Well, like I mentioned, that one client, we did his diet in the beginning. We never changed it all the way through the whole prep.
Right.
Didn't need to.
Yeah.
I mean,
No.
every week he'd check in. Every week he dropped 1 pound, and I knew exactly how many pounds because we did a DEXA scan in the beginning, and he needed to lose like 30 pounds, and it mapped it out, and he just lost basically a pound to a pound and a half every week right up to the show and
I
came
mean,
in
it's
shredded.
perfect. I mean, it's the easiest client you can have. Everything works. You don't have to try and do any like magic tricks. Not that there's any magic tricks, but like there's those stubborn clients where you're like, okay, we'll try carb cycling. Okay, we'll try this. Okay, we'll try a lower. We'll try some high days. We'll try that.
Well, you
Uh,
also have clients that don't do what they say.
that's
I,
another thing. I think, I love when clients are honest, and I know who are, because no one is perfect. I mean, we all like had some extra protein, or I mean, maybe not cheated. Maybe we did cheat. Maybe we had a piece of chocolate. Maybe we had something, or maybe we had an extra meal, or we had some extra rice. And I know, like, when athletes come and tell me, I had 170 grams of fish more on Friday, or I had 2 squares of dark chocolate that day, or then I'm like, okay, they're honest. Like, every time they come and tell me if there's something. But if somebody is not losing weight, not looking good, and even the weight is going up sometimes, and they're like, no, not I don't know, I kept my diet. I'm like, it's hard to. I always find it's hard to sit and accuse somebody, because I wasn't in their living room. Some people have stubborn metabolisms, but I mean, not losing weight for months on a row, there's something
no, I had
wrong.
one guy that he was cheating on his diet every night.
Yeah. So did you
Yeah,
call him out, or what did
I
you?
in the beginning I was like, I don't understand like what's happening. Like,
And I think it's such a terrible position to be in. I mean, I really urge all athletes to be honest with your coach. Like, even though you feel like it's embarrassing maybe to say you cheated or whatever, but it's like, as a coach, you're sitting like, we are like a problem solver, right? Like, what could it be? What is it? Stress? Are you stressed at work? Is the cortisol up? You're trying to figure it out.
well, I had him on very, very low carbs and doing cardio, and he just wasn't losing weight. And I kept asking him, like, are you cheating on your diet? And finally he told me um, that he was, and that we got him on the is it trizipatide?
Right.
No, I'm sorry, retatrutide.
With a true side.
And as soon as he started the retatrutide, boom, he started losing body fat and weight. And I asked it, but it was too late. We didn't start it till like 3 weeks out,
Right.
because I didn't know. And I asked him when the day before the show, I said, how often did you cheat on your diet? He said, every day.
Wow.
Every night
I'm
he would get up in
surprised he got in
every
shape
night in
at
the middle of
all.
the night he
Like,
would get up and like raid the pantry and
oh
eat
my
just God
God.
knows whatever. So he was dieting all day long, and then he'd get up in the middle of the night and eat how many thousand calories of whatever crap was in his house.
Oh,
But I knew
yeah.
that. I had another client. He was on keto last few weeks of the diet, and I was seeing him almost every day. So I could tell, he was fairly lean, and his body was, or he was getting lean anyways. But he was, you're on keto, you're a little flat. And
Mhm.
one day he shows up at the gym for a training session, and like he's got veins popping out all over the place. And I said to him, "What did you eat last night?" He's like, "Nothing." I'm like, "Bullshit. What did you eat?"
We know you have no veins if you're low carb or no carb. There's no veins. There's no way.
Right. He looked like he was like just carb loaded for 3 days,
Right.
but he only did it that once, because as soon as I saw him, I'm like, okay, I
I
know you
know.
did something.
Right.
I can see, like, you looked yesterday this way, and today you look like you're busted out.
Right. Shit.
So I wanted to get your thoughts on a few different things. There's so much stuff we could cover, but um, I want to get your thoughts on bodybuilding today and kind of where things have evolved to as because I know we've both been around for a long time. We both started competing a long time ago. I think you said you were how old when you started competing?
22.
Yeah. So I did my first show. I was 16.
Wow.
I started training at 13. I won my first show at 16, and by
That
18,
was early.
I won the USA's. So I
Um,
started
I, I'm a
really
couple of years behind you on the training. I started around 15, like got like really serious at 17, like with the diet and like really like went after it.
well. I just got lucky. I grew up in the San Fernando Valley, and it just so happened that Don Peters' gym, which later became Gold's Gym, was the gym that was in the valley that where Weider headquarters was at. So when I walked into that gym, the first bodybuilder I saw was Bertil Fox. And at the time, there was Lee Haney was training there, getting ready for shows. Gus Berry was training there. Matt Mendenhall was training there. Albert Beckles was training there. I mean, there was a lot of pros already. So that's the first thing I saw. Literally, I had been training with a weight set in my house for a few months, and then I went with my father to the athletic club once in a while. But literally, like a few months after I started training, I walked into that gym, and that's all I saw was bodybuilders. And it was a bodybuilders gym. Like there was no non bodybuilders there. Everybody there was training for some kind of competition. So
Right.
that's all I knew. I didn't know anything different.
Right.
So right from the get go, I was training really hard. That I think there'll never be another time like that because everything's so spread out. You know, there's
Yeah,
no
and also there was not really any commercial gyms that time. Like the big chains, they
well
came later.
there was
There
actually
was. There
yeah
was.
there was like athletic clubs. Like I went with
Okay.
my father. He would train at an athletic club. He played racquetball, and there was that. Not as much as now, but
Mm-hmm.
at the bodybuilding gyms that we had, like I said, everybody in there was bodybuilding or trying to be a bodybuilder.
Right.
There was nobody that wasn't. So everybody was training hard. That's all I knew.
Yeah.
I didn't know any other way.
Right.
And
Yeah, I mean, it was sort of the same where I'm from. I mean, I'm from a small town, so we didn't have any chains. I think maybe I don't know if they came later in Denmark or they maybe were in the big cities, but we didn't have any. So that was like these. Yeah, I mean, the guy that owned our gym, he was a power lifter, and it was a powerlifting gym. They also
mhm,
had their own like sort of like club championships in powerlifting,
right.
and there was a couple of other gyms, but it was mostly like, yeah, I think there was one kind of mom and pop's gym that was just kind of more like rehab and physio, and then there was two gyms in the city that was like really the hardcore ones. And it was, I remember the same, like, it was people were super serious and they were really like into it. And when we would go to like FIBO in Germany, the big bodybuilding expo there, it was like
Mhm,
the whole gym would go. We would figure out
right.
to go together or drive together or make a tour. Like it was a great spirit.
Yeah, and I don't think you'll ever see that again because like there's very few hardcore gyms left. I think it's almost all commercial gyms, or I call them fitness centers because that's what they are. Like in my county, I would say there's a couple other gyms that try to be hardcore, but they're not. They're just a fitness center. Even though the owners try to claim that they're a bodybuilding gym, they're just not. I think I have the only bodybuilding gym in my county. Everything else is a fitness center.
I
And what I
just
mean
think
by
also like it's so spread out, like you said,
yeah,
like I mean, there's no, like Gold's Gym were before like the central place for bodybuilders.
yeah,
Like
everybody
now
goes
it's
there.
like there's a little bit in Vegas, there's Dragon's Lair, there's there's a couple of like hardcore gym there,
Yeah. I think
but
Vegas is becoming a hot spot for bodybuilding.
Yeah, I think so too.
There, and I
Then
think Texas has always been pretty good. And from what I
Texas has Destination Dallas. It has those the new Absolute Recomp.
mhm.
Damn, have you seen those? They are
I seen only
huge.
pictures and
Over
videos, but I have
four,
not been in.
500 machines.
Right.
It's like a chain. They have like, I think they have like 4 locations, 4 or 5 now around Texas.
Hmm.
Huge, like crazy. Like that's something new. These super gyms with
Yeah.
4, 5, 600 machines. That's something new that's like shut up. I think is when something gets big, which is, I mean, it's also good, because back in the day, bodybuilding was more like a subculture. It was like it was small. We were few. I mean, also like if we're talking about for the women, when I started, there was only women's bodybuilding. That's it.
Right.
There was nothing else. Now we got the new fit model. There's bikini, figure, fitness, wellness, women's physique, women's bodybuilding.
Hmm.
We got 7 categories for women, which you could say is great for the sport. It's like there's more money in the sport. There's more people competing. There's more interest. I also think something that's good for me is like it's become more acceptable for a woman to have muscles. I mean, it's always going to be extreme for me because I'm at the end of the spectrum. I'm a women's bodybuilder, but and it's still like I mean, it's still like if you meet people that never saw a bodybuilder before, people that are not in the industry at all, you do get reactions, but it's gotten so much more um, normalized that
Right.
women have muscles than compared to 25 years
Well,
ago.
now we have social media, so people see these things. Back
Yeah.
back in those days, I mean, you didn't see bodybuilders unless you saw them in person
No.
at a gym
Yeah.
or
No,
went to
you
a
did not.
competition.
Yeah. True. True.
Yeah, you did.
So
You just didn't
I
see them.
do. Yeah. That there's more exposure. So I think, in many senses, it's also good that it's been, it's been more marketable with many categories. The IFBB is thriving. They're getting money into the pockets. So they can host more shows, and the more shows, the more money, the more people, the more prize money, etc. The more
Right.
sponsors. So it's good that it's growing, but of course that kind of club feeling that was back in the day when it was niche, when it was small, when there was
Mhm.
this camaraderie. I mean, I remember from my first show, like there was no coaches back then. It didn't exist, at least in Denmark. It's just people were helping each other. It was sort of like those who had been competing for a really long time. Like you said, you got into the wing but with Mike Menser or Lee Labrada or whatever. You were like, we had a gym in Copenhagen that was like famous for athletes. I went to the Danish nationals, and back then we had like these brochures with names of which classes they were in and which gym they came from. And I was like, wow, there's this one gym. They had like, I don't know, 10 athletes competing. And and I was thinking, I gotta be there. So I moved from my little village to the capital just to be where I felt like, okay, there are people, they know something here,
Right.
like I can learn something. I can, because I had the incentive of competing, and I'm like, I don't know anything. I don't know how to diet. I gotta be where people are. So I moved there just for that. And we had like a older male bodybuilder that also won the world championships for amateurs. And I went to him and was kind of like, hey, I'd like to compete, like would you have a look at me, and he would like look at me and bikini and was like giving me some pointers and like, yeah, I'm eating this, and could you look at my diet, and what do you think, and he made a few corrections, and it
Mhm.
kind of went that way. We trained with each other, we helped each other. When I was gonna pose and stuff, it was like not like, oh, you hire a posing coach, or it didn't really exist. You ask somebody like other
Right.
competitors, say, hey, could you maybe help me? And you just helped each other, and it was a great camaraderie. And yeah.
Well, when I started training, there was no such thing as a trainer. There was no trainer certification. There was nothing. I mean, people trained people, but it wasn't like there was a title of a trainer. Um, there was no certification. There was no one, walking around promoting themselves as that. My first trainer was actually a Mr. Universe named Mike Sable. My father hired him for me for my first competition when I was 16. And that was the
Hmm.
first trainer I had. And I worked with him just for the competition. Um, but like as a teenager, I won a lot of shows. And people, just older guys, would come to me in the gym and ask me to help them get ready for shows. And that's how I started training people. I wasn't like trying to be a trainer or looking to train people. It just, they saw that I won shows and I would get in shape. And so they asked me to train them. And I was 18, 19 years old. I was training guys, 40, 50 years old. But they
Right.
saw that I had gotten results. And so that's kind of how it started. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, like I learned from the other bodybuilders, uh, training with them, training around them. Like I would just learn from them in the gym.
Right.
That's how we learned. Um,
Hmm.
and, we'd read the magazines. You could get some stuff out of that. But like I said, I was lucky that I was in a place where there was a lot of bodybuilders there. So I had that resource, um, right around me. Now I don't think you have that so much. My gym's a little different, but still I have uh, like 3 pros in my gym, and there's I'd say it's the majority of the people come in are more serious than at a fitness center, just because I promote it as a hardcore training gym,
Hmm.
and the atmosphere and the equipment, it's all set up like really old school. I mean, we have like
Right.
all the best equipment, but um,
Nice.
we play rock music, and people do heavy deadlifts and bang weights, and I mean we
Well, I think that also like that invites bodybuilders to come, because no one really wants to train at, first of all, if the machines are too fitness, flimsy, and it's not
Mhm.
really good quality. You don't find a pendulum, or you don't find like, some of the cool angles for back, if it's too
Right.
basic. And also like, if you can't, like, I mean, you can't train if you're not allowed to grunt, or you're not, I'm not saying we all should yell, but it's just like, if you're pressing leg press with the freaking 900 pounds on there, you're gonna say something, like um and also, I mean, I'm thinking of a specific. And recently I had a client. They were literally kicked out of the gym for grunting and letting the weight go sometimes. I mean, it happens if you train, like, say, a heavy deadlift. You
Mhm.
don't always set the weight like
Down lightly.
lightly, or, I mean, I've been guilty of like doing dumbbell um chest press, and I just couldn't get the weights down, and it kind of fell like I mean, we're working out, and we're working with heavy weights. It's just you gotta be allowed to be there. And I'm like, I mean, I don't know how it got so, um can I say, polished, you know, in some gyms where it's like
Restrictive.
restrictive. Like, I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know, like, would you say
I think you cut out right now. You're frozen. I don't know if you can hear me. I don't know if she knows she's frozen. Let me see. She might have, maybe the connection's going slow. Let me see. Frozen. Let's see. She's probably gonna have to log back in. Hopefully, didn't lose her.
can you hear me?
Now, yeah,
Can you hear me?
you were frozen for a minute there.
Awesome. Okay. All right. So yeah, so I mean, definitely gyms where you're allowed to train hard and there's some cool music and good machines that will attract some bodybuilders.
Well, honestly, when I first opened a gym in 2000 and I believe it was like 2008, I never really wanted to own a gym. I thought it was a stupid idea, but I just finished that.
Okay.
Yeah, I was a marketing manager before that, and I just didn't think, that I'd make money at it. But I did that. I had that steroid lab down in Mexico, and then Operation Raw Deal went down. Everything went south, and long story short, I was on. I was out on what is it? Not probation. It was federal bond. I was out on federal bond. And as a condition of my bond, I was told I had to stay in Camarillo, where my mother lived, because I was on a property bond and on that house, and I had to get a job. So I went around Camarillo, and it's kind of a sleepy town, and there wasn't like anything there I wanted to do. So I just thought I'll open a gym, just to do that. So I talked to some gym industry people, the fitness industry people, and they all told me basically I should have purple and pink equipment and do it like this, basically make a Planet Fitness. And
Wow.
I said to them, I said, if I build that gym, I won't want to go to my own gym because I can't
Right.
stand those places. And they said, well, a hardcore gym won't work. And I'm like, well, I really wasn't doing it. I was doing it to solve probation, having a job, and I had money.
Hmm.
So
Right.
I just did it anyways. And it did work. And they were right and they were wrong. They were right in the fact that, yeah, 90% of people don't want to go to a gym like I have. With a hardcore atmosphere and all the heavy equipment. And, I have a Vonco dumbbells going up to 200 pounds. And, the, what is it? The Nebula leg press, all the heavy stuff. I have everything. And again, 90% of the people rather go to a fitness center because they're there to socialize. They're not there to train. So I'm
Right.
only getting 10% of the population of people that go to gyms probably want to go to my gym. However, there's a fitness center on every corner. Like in my
Mhm.
county, there's got to be 200 gyms plus all the little private training studios and whatnot. But we're the only like hardcore training gym there is. So
Right.
I'm not really competing against all those other gyms. So
You
if
have
I
a niche business there.
yeah, if I was like them, then I would yeah, there's 90% more people want to go to that, but I'd also have to
But
be
there's also 90% more competition.
exactly. So I'm getting the people that want a hardcore training gym. And people will drive to my gym from an hour away. I have people coming from like Simi Valley, Santa Barbara. It's an hour drive. That they're willing to make the drive because there's nothing else like what I have around. So it ended up working out well because, like I said, I get those people, and I get some of the regular people too. But I think when people walk into the gym, they immediately see just the atmosphere, the way it's set up, the rock music and the deadlift platforms and the monolift and all the heavy equipment. Right. And I have everything. I'm kind of like, some people collect cars. I collect gym equipment. So I've like picked out like the best of every kind of piece of equipment that is out there. I don't think there's anything that I don't have. I might not have 5 of everything, but I have everything, and I have pieces that you won't even see anywhere else. And mainly, when I'm buying equipment, I'm usually buying equipment thinking, oh, we lost her again. Let's see. She'll probably have to log back in. Let's see. I think it's just the distance, maybe the connection.
Here we go.
Okay.
Here we go.
Yeah.
The internet can be a little wonky in Africa.
Yeah, I can see that. So as I was saying, like when I buy equipment, I'm thinking, this is something I want because I need to train there. I built the gym thinking, I need a place to train. So when I'm picking out equipment, I'm picking out the best pieces that I want to use.
Right.
And
something you want to work out on.
Yeah, something I want to train on. The only machine that I bought that was something that I personally didn't want was one of these hip thrust machines because, one of my members said, the girls want that. Not that I don't like the hip thrust movement, but I prefer to do it on a Smith machine. But I bought that.
Right.
But everything else.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you got to accommodate a little.
Yeah, but everything else I bought, like, okay, this is a like I search out equipment. I have like all the whole line of original flex leverage equipment that you just can't find that anymore. I have original Nautilus in mint condition from 40 years ago.
Wow. You still have a gym?
What's that?
You still have a gym?
Oh yeah, it's in Ventura.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's 24/7. The gym runs 24 hours, 7 days a week.
I got to come visit when I'm in Cali at some point.
Yeah, you'll like it. Yeah, it's a cool spot. I can honestly say this is my 4th location. Oh, we lost her again. I'm sure she'll be back in a second. Okay. Back?
It's getting a little, yeah, I'm back. It's a little, getting a little
Anyways,
tricky.
I got off on a little bit of tangent, but I wanted to ask you, like, how do you feel about the way the sport is going right now as far as the direction it is with just the mentality of
like
I feel
you're
like
thinking the direction of the sport on stage or the mentality or the training or Which
I feel like
aspect?
I feel like, you know, from a business point of view, they want as many people competing as possible, which makes sense. I totally understand it because I promote I am a meet director for powerlifting meets. Whoops. Let's get her back. So I was saying, like, I run powerlifting meets, and you know, you need a certain amount of competitors. Hmm. You just need to log back in again.
I think I'm back.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
I think it's just a connection.
Yeah, I didn't get that the direction you were going.
So, like, as a meet director, you know, if I want to run a powerlifting meet, I have to have a number of competitors there to just pay for the meet, you know, but just to be able to have it. If I don't have at least 60 people competing, you know, it doesn't pay for itself because I have to pay the
Mm-hmm.
referees, the, you know, spotter loaders, and just announcer and all that stuff that goes on, plus whatever advertising.
Right.
So I have to have 60 competitors to break even. And usually we'll
Yeah.
have 100, 120. So we can actually make a little bit of something.
Yeah.
But so, you know, I'll have everybody from the serious lifters to people who, a lot of people, it's their first meet ever, you know, and they're just doing it. So I get that. From a business point of view, you have to have numbers for it to be profitable. But
For
I
sure.
feel like at the same time, it's getting watered down to the point where I don't feel like people are as serious anymore as they were back when we started.
Like you say, do you think it's all over the line, like all classes, or just men's and women's bodybuilding?
I think in general, people are just, I very rarely see anybody training really hard anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas back when I started, everybody was training hard. I
Right.
I don't see people like trying to get to the top levels. Like when you and I started, there was only bodybuilding. That's all you could do.
Right.
We didn't have all these other categories. And I understand the
Yeah.
purpose of the categories, but I think like they created those for people that don't want to go to that level.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it's got watered down. And now I don't know how you feel about it, but I felt like, honestly, before this, I felt like the sport was growing in the right direction and things were going. I think bodybuilding was coming up along with the other things. Everything looked like it was very positive. And with this PMMA stuff, I don't know what to think about it right now. I know there's been site enhancement forever with the
Mm-hmm.
synthol and whatnot, but this is like
Right.
another level.
Mm-hmm.
And I was curious what your feelings were about that, because I think a lot of people now, when I started and when you started, it was like, you know, whoever trained the hardest and worked the hardest usually was the winners. And now it's become, oh, don't train too hard, reps in reserve, don't work too hard, take more drugs, or use some.
I don't think it's on people on top though. I mean, I've seen like, I mean, I follow also like several of the guys, and I've been training with some of the girls and stuff. I mean, I mean, you can't say like a Samson Dauda or a Hadi or a Derek doesn't train hard. You know, maybe they train different. Uh, I think, I mean, I've been training in MI40 where also Derek trains, and I've been seeing him train like even like before he won the O. And he trains the very much the hypertrophy. I mean, he trains heavy too, but he trains very clean. very good form, good technique. You could say maybe like Charles Glass style. But yeah, I mean, whatever works for you, but I mean, they wouldn't be there that big if they wouldn't train hard. I mean, you can't. I mean, of course, drugs play a role and genetics and so far, but you still got to train your ass off. Maybe it's like, I mean, like we talked about earlier, it got broader, a lot broader. So, what I could say before, you had the little hardcore core of bodybuilders that trained together, kicked each other's ass. Now it's just, you could say, watered down because it's like there's so many other classes.
Right.
And a bikini athlete shouldn't train hot and heavy like a women's bodybuilder, and a men's physique would train differently than a male bodybuilder, right? So we've got all these different classes that train for the specific look that they got to bring to stage. But I don't think, if you talk about professional athletes, you could say, well, they're not really training hard because they wouldn't get there. I think.
No, I think you're right at the
I mean,
top.
but
Go
yeah,
ahead.
I mean, if you look at the fitness centers, I mean, how many people don't want to be gym bros? And those that talks about rest and reserve, and you gotta this and you gotta that. These are not pros. It's like young people trying to figure out what to do, and it's always been like this, that people want to get results like with the minimum amount of work.
Right.
Like Ronnie says, is like everybody want to be a bodybuilder, but no one want to lift some heavy ass weight, right? So
Yeah.
I think just
Well,
there are so many more
that's what I
people.
was getting. I think the top people, yeah, like you said, they wouldn't be on top if they didn't work hard. So there is that, but there's this mentality just across the board because it's being
It's
promoted.
not as hardcore as it once was, and I think it also comes with social media and being an influencer and stuff. And a lot of people, they don't really want to compete. They want to be an influencer. They want to have a little fit body, and they want to make money. And I'm like, that's also okay. The only thing when I have something to say is like when they write coach. No, just because you're 22 years old and you have a high metabolism, you have a six pack, and you're an influencer, that doesn't mean that you're
Right.
qualified as a coach. That's when I get pissed off, because you see everyone nowadays, like some little 20-year-old guy or girl standing there trying to make them really smart on some bullshit, where you're listening and you're like, no, that's not true. And people they're influencer, and they're selling some bullshit information, where I'm like, what is this? That is far from the truth. But they have 1 million followers, so you have all these people chiming in, clapping, that thinks what they just said was like gold, and where I'm just like, that's someone who doesn't know what they're talking about. So we have that, but I think in terms of like our pros and top people, I think they trained really hard, possibly smarter. I mean, also like in terms of drugs. I mean, you heard a lot back in the day, like people getting kidney issues. Don Long died of kidney issues. Flex Wheeler had kidney issues. I don't think we really hear about that anymore. I think people are smarter than do their blood work regularly. There's so many more different types of drugs now that, people get smarter at finding out which drugs works
Well,
better.
the people that had the kidney issues, I mean, we know what that cut came from. It came from
Diuretics, I
diuretics.
guess. Right.
It came from diuretics, and there
Right.
was just certain coaches that were pushing diuretics.
pushing
like
that
crazy back
hard.
then. So that was and I think people have realized that, diuretics can cause problems. So maybe
Do you think
people
they're
are,
using less diuretics today?
is there what?
Do you think they're using less diuretics today?
I barely use any diuretics with my clients ever. At most, we might use a diazide the night before. That's it.
Right.
There's no
I also
reason.
think I also think it's being used a lot less today than it
I
used
still
to.
think I know for a fact there's some coaches that use some of the school coaches are using like high diuretic protocols. But
Hmm.
I personally think it's just totally unnecessary. I mean, there's so many ways to lose water, and if you lose too much water, you just go flat.
Yeah. And it also like, some people think that peak week is golden. When I hear people talk about peak week, they're like, oh, peak week, and then we gotta tweak it, and I can't wait to peak week. I dropped the water. I mean, you should have dropped the water before peak week. I mean, right? I mean,
Well, things have changed,
it's a slow process with the diet getting
right?
drier and drier, right? Like as you lean out and you diet, you will naturally slowly become drier. It's not something like, oh, now we gotta pull out, 10 pounds of water. No, you just don't do that in a matter of a few days.
Well, there's two things going on there. One is somebody's just not in shape, and they think
Yeah.
they're going to pull a miracle out of their butt at the last minute, which generally doesn't work. If you still
I
have
say
10
the less you need to do, the better.
you still have 10 pounds of body fat left on you and you pull a bunch of water off, you're not going to look better. You're just going to look flat and worse.
Right. Yeah.
So that just
Fat
doesn't
is,
work.
as I say, fat is fat. It's like there's
Yeah.
just not much to do about it.
Right. And so you have that. And, but like, I think people have learned that, there's just better ways to do things for the most part. I still know though, there's some coaches that are pushing the diuretics. So I think the reason we're not seeing the kidney issues is again, people aren't pushing the diuretics so hard because it's not necessary. But
Right.
what the people, if you notice, who's passing away are, and I'm not passing a judgment necessarily, but I'll just say, doesn't it seem interesting that a lot of them are coming from like Latin America? I've just noticed that in the last year, a lot of people passing away are coming from down there. And I think people are more extreme in some of the things that they do down there.
I haven't really noticed that they were specifically from Latin America, but that's an interesting observation.
Well, I've just, Dave Plum posts the deaths every week in bodybuilding. And I've just noticed there's been a lot more younger people from down there
Right.
dying. And
Yeah.
I really think it's, they're
They push
pushing
it harder.
diuretics and other things.
Yeah.
So, but that's really not
I don't know like how much they're doing blood work. I mean, blood work is expensive. Like I had blood work done once in Colombia, and I had like the full like extensive blood work with everything, hormones, everything. It cost me $800. And so I
down
mean,
there.
I'm in Africa right now. I went to a private clinic and asked for, just the basic cholesterol, blood viscosity, what was it, kidney, liver, and hormones, progesterone, estrogen, testosterone. And it was like $634. I'm like, who can afford that? If like Mexico, Colombia, Brazil, that's some of the countries I've lived in recently. That's third world countries. They don't have
Right.
that much money. So I don't know, like, if they really go and do that blood work. I think it's super important to see, like, I mean, you can quickly correct something, you can quickly see, is something going on that shouldn't be there,
I
is
don't
my
know if this is
liver
available where you're at, but I just started this Rhythm Health. It's
okay?
a it's an in-home blood test, and it's
Okay,
$79 a month, and
that's a good deal.
and it, and it doesn't have everything, but it has a good amount of most of the tests that you want. And I actually was skeptical because it was so cheap. So what I did is I ordered labs from Private MD, the full panel, everything. I ordered all the tests they had. The only thing that they're missing is, let's see. Well, they test estradiol instead of estrogen sensitive, and they don't have the. Oh, what is I just blanked out on it? The insulin sensitivity. What is it
Right.
called? You know what I'm talking.
Um, the glucose markers,
No,
but
they do
you're
have, but the one I should know this. The one that you test, it tells you if you're diabetic or not.
yeah. I mean, isn't that the fasted glucose?
No, 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 no. This is the one over time.
Ah, yes, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Wait, they don't have that one,
I had that done recently. I'm blanked out on.
but they have pretty much a good variety of that. I heard they're going to add that in, but this they send you the kit in the mail, and there's a little thing, and you stick it on your shoulder, and it draws the blood out, and then you put it, you put it in this package, and there's a certain way that you do it, and you mail it in, and they FedEx it, and you get your results back a few days later.
And
And
what
I
was it
actually,
called?
it's called Rhythm Health.
Rhythm Health.
Yeah. And I don't know if they'll ship outside of the United States. I'm not sure. But
Right.
like I said, I
That's a
was
good deal.
I was skeptical because it was so cheap. But I actually went to Private MD, which is through Quest. I got all my labs done, and then right away I did the Rhythm Health test, and they came out pretty much the same
Right.
on the test that they ran. So that's a great deal. I would
Mm-hmm.
highly recommend that because I mean, then you get your blood work every month for $79,
Yeah,
and
that's a
then
good deal.
if you need to order a couple extra tests, then you could do that. But like for the same tests that I would get through Private MD, it would cost me around $300.
Yeah, that's a big
Um,
difference.
yeah, from 79 to 3. Plus, this is every month, so I can literally monitor this all the way through.
Right.
So yeah, it's a
Yeah,
great
I just
deal.
think it's a like really big deal to do your blood work regularly and just stay on top of like how everything's looking, especially if you're on edge, like you wanna make sure that you keep those numbers in check.
But anyways, what I was getting to is I think maybe from people trying to promote stuff on social media or whatever, but the message that's getting promoted out there is, training doesn't matter so much. You don't have to train too hard, and you just take more drugs.
That's a
And
bad that's a really bad direction.
I know it is, but that's what and a lot of bodybuilders seem to be like buying into this idea. Not just
I
I'm
mean,
not talking
I
about
mean
just your regular
it's
gym people.
right. I mean it's easy, right? I mean, you don't have to work as hard. You don't need to struggle so much. Go less to the gym. Don't go to failure. Don't lift heavy and take more drugs. I mean, people are lazy in general. Like,
But I think this is
It's
becoming,
definitely a very bad development.
it's almost becoming accepted. Like this is a better way. And I know why people do it, because they're just lazy and they don't want to put in the work. But I think the message is wrong.
Yeah, I think so
Yeah.
too. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's the same like, you know, when Ozempic came out, it was like sold out everywhere. Everybody went on Ozempic. Why? Because people don't want to make an effort. You know, you could clean up your diet, you could go to the gym, lose some weight, but people rather just go on Ozempic. And then
Mhm.
it's like now we see all these like Ozempic bodies, right? Because you lose so much muscle. If you go on Ozempic, you lose your appetite and you just eat once a day or whatever, yeah, of course you're going to lose all your muscle. Skin's going to hang off of you. But it's like, I think that's just humanity. You know, people just, they don't want to work hard. It's like a small percentage. And that's those who are champions. You know, like your mindset is so important in bodybuilding. Yeah, of course you can get a great body, just train some, not too much, take a bunch of drugs, see where that gets you, probably health issues down the line, right? But
Mhm.
you're never going to go to the top if that's what you want. If you want to win shows, if you want to be a great athlete, it starts up here. It doesn't start with the drugs. You know,
Well,
I trained like 10, I trained when I was 15. I trained about 7 years before I started anything. Just training diet, learned all the basics, and then I knew I wanted to compete and I wanted to. I mean, I knew already early if I'm gonna do this, I want to be a pro. Like I was looking at those muscle magazines every month that
right.
came out, looking at Kim Chivesky and Len Murray, and I was like, I want that. And I knew like I wasn't gonna get that with just training. But I always had the understanding of like your fundamentals have to be, I mean, it's a help, you know, it's like,
Right.
what does it do? It helps you recover faster, but if there's nothing to recover from, you know,
Right.
I mean, the harder you train, the more you're going to get out of it. That's my philosophy,
Well,
you
when I
know.
started, you know, I walked into the gym, the hardcore gym, when I was 13 years old. And right away I was training really hard. And my first cycle was pretty young. It was uh, when I was prepping for my first show when I was 16 years old. I took Anavar, and they were 2 milligrams, and I took three a day for I think 30 days. And
Right,
it worked. I mean, I was taking
right,
6 milligrams of Anavar, and it worked. And I mean, I came in condition, and at only 16, I was beating all the 19-year-olds. Um,
right.
so there was that, but I don't, at that time, the drugs weren't even illegal. So we kind of thought of them more like vitamins. And the
Right.
idea of like taking massive amounts or more and more and more, it wasn't a thing. We didn't think about that, or taking 20 different compounds, or, all this
Right.
different stuff, and I understand, chemistry has evolved over the years, and I get it, but it's now like when I started, it was like train your ass off, eat a lot of food, or diet really hard, depending on where you're at in off season or prep. And that's what wins. We didn't really talk about drugs. I mean, we knew they were there, but it wasn't talked about so much. Now it's like, oh, don't train hard anymore. Just take, 40 different peptides
Mm-hmm.
and, whatever drugs. And I think a lot of people think that the training doesn't matter. I've actually heard some YouTube channel people, you know who these people are because you do. I know you do. They literally say the training doesn't matter. It's just the drugs. Boston
Wow.
Lloyd promoted that, and you know where that got him.
I
And
so don't agree. I mean, you're an athlete first, and you know, the reason why I really fell in love with bodybuilding was the challenge. You know, the
Mhm.
challenge of like pushing your body. You know, like when I went to the gym and I trained my ass off, I was like, I wanted to do a better job tomorrow. You know,
Right.
it's like sometimes when I did a back workout and I wasn't happy with my back workout and say, you know, I didn't feel like I really did my best. I wasn't sore. I felt like that just freaking wasn't good enough. I would go and do back again the next day or 2 days later because it just wasn't good enough, you know? Like the whole stage thing, I mean, it's like it's you versus you. It's that, you know, how tough can I condition my mindset to be? How disciplined can I be? You know, like every day you get up and you just want to kill the cardio, you want to kill your training, you just want to be perfect. You know, I mean, I've been like measuring out my food like on the rice corn, you know, like just
Mhm.
because I wanted to be that meticulous and that good at what I was doing. And I mean, drugs, yeah, it's like we can't get around it. If you're in the IFBB and you want to be a pro, it is what it is. It's part of the package, but it's more like, to me, it's secondary. You know,
Right.
it's there. It's gonna help you to where you want to get to, but you know, like it will increase your protein synthesis. But if you're not eating enough protein, well,
Right. It's not
like
going to
what
work.
then? You know, it literally repairs your muscle fibers and recovers you. But if there's nothing to repair because you didn't really tear those muscle fibers, you didn't really train hard, then what is it for? You know, I so don't agree with that mentality. And I think also what is a double-edged sword is that I think it's really great that there's an open discussion. You know, back in the day, like you didn't talk about it. If you were asked if you were taking steroids, you would be saying no, not, because you could lose your sponsor. It would not a good idea. I mean, maybe you'd talk to your friends or whatever, but you know, publicly, you wouldn't go on television and say, you know, on
Right.
steroids, because that was that time. You did it. You were, everybody would like, I don't know, swear you off like the plague. Like you just like, even like your sponsors wouldn't like it. Like it just, it was something you did not talk about. And
Mhm.
that has changed to like now there's a transparency. It's like there's so many times I scroll through Instagram and a guy is sitting with a needle in his shoulder, or he's sitting with like this, the guy I follow, he always has an IV in his arm and pushing in like peptides, you know. And it's become so normal to see people stand there and talk about the bottles and I'm like, I like that there's transparency. I like that, you know, it's better to educate yourself than you just ask some gym bro in the gym that maybe
Right.
knows absolutely nothing. Yeah, just take like, you know, 1,000 milligram of tren every week and you get fucked up because you know Peter Butthead said that down in the gym, and he really had no clue, you know,
Right.
because like anything, you want to get advice from qualified people, and also on social media, are those people on there? Are they qualified to talk about it? You know, and also if you get so much exposure to it, does it get too much normalized? Does it get
Mhm.
too, I mean, it's like I said, it's a double-edged sword because I think information is good. It's better to be informed. It's better to know what you're going into, especially also as a woman, that you can get some male characteristic side effects,
Mhm.
and you should just be aware what you're going into. When I started, I read a couple of books. There was a steroid Bible. There was like Black Book. There was some books that came out then, and I read everything, and I knew what I was going into and what to look for. And I heard other women say like, "Oh, my coach just told me to take, and I had no idea." And where I hate to hear stuff like that, because it's like, it's your responsibility to educate yourself. There's all the knowledge available now with Google, ChatGPT, Instagram posts of, I don't know if it's qualified people or not. Some are, some aren't, but there's just this danger also of overexposure, and it gets too normalized, maybe inspiring people also to take this and take that and take this. And you know what I'm saying? Like,
Well,
it shouldn't
I
be
see.
that high on the priority list, like it
I've
is
had.
still, it's training, it's diet,
Mhm.
it's recovery. And if you say all that is okay, and also that you have the right age. I mean, if you ask me, I would say, Larry, you started a little too early. You still had all your hormones going for you, like like, I don't like to see these like teenage boys on this and this and this and this, like they're young, their testosterone is like, going like that. It's not necessary to start too young and too much.
Right. Well, I see it on a regular basis. Young guys will come in the gym and they literally barely been training less than a year. I had a kid come in a few months back. He's been training for less than a year. He was 200 pounds, but his lean weight was like 140 pounds. So really overweight, not a whole lot of muscle. He had his first cycle was tests, and then he had a coach, and he showed me a picture. The coach looked like he was in his 20s, who was just had competed in some local shows. And this kid is running right off the top, like a gram of testosterone and 500 tren, and I think he was taking an anadrol every day. So he's like 2 grams. This is his like second
Wow.
cycle ever. He doesn't know how to
Ooh.
train, doesn't know how to eat. And I'm like, whoa, 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 wait, wait, wait. Like,
Wow.
why are you taking all that? Like you said, well, this is what his coach told him to do. And his coach,
Yeah.
like you said, was not qualified to be a coach, obviously. The guy just won his first local competition. Now he's a coach.
Yeah. It's my big pet peeve, to be honest. Like, either people are an influencer and they're a coach, because they think now they can make some bucks, or they won one show, and then they're a coach. They know everything. They can maybe use the plans that they had from their coach and just use those plans on their clients. Now they feel like they have the golden key, but that one plan that was like his plan. It's like, you cannot transfer that to any other people, like, unless he found somebody identical to him. And who knows if that coach, like you said, that coach also didn't have it right, so he can go on and train other people and not do it right.
Mm-hmm.
It's
And but I see it seems like if I put out a drug video versus a training video, I've seen this across the board. I'll get way, way more views on the drug video. That's what people want to hear
yeah,
about.
yeah,
And
I know.
I'm all for being open and transparent, but it shouldn't be just about that.
Yeah.
I think the training is 10 times more important than whatever cycle you might be on.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
without that, nothing else happens.
it's a really hard subject because it's like, how do you inform and educate without it being inspiring or being too much? It's like you said, it creates likes, so some people, they do these videos and others see it and they're like, I also want to do that. And now we have like a bunch of drug videos out there. I mean, there's so many people now on Instagram who's doing it, and I'm like, I have a very parted opinion on that.
Well, again, I think, like you said, transparency is good and knowledge should be put out there, but the wrong message is being sent by too many people, and people are buying into this idea. And I understand it. It's simply this: if you go to some coach and he tells you, you don't have to work very hard, you can do reps in reserve and just take a bunch of drugs and site enhancement or whatever. Or he comes to me and I say, we're not going to take so much drugs, but I'm going to kill you in the gym every time you come. Where are most people likely to want to go to? Now, the reality is the guy that's telling you the easy route, it's a lot of BS. He's just selling you something because, you're going to fall for it.
Yeah.
But it's not the truth. But it's what most people want to hear.
Yeah, it's a very unfortunate development.
And I just feel like, the wrong message is being sent. Sure, PEDs are used, and I look at them as, like, again, supplements. It's like, it's something that's going to enhance your training. It's not instead of training. It's not, it'll enhance your utilization of your nutrition. It's not instead of proper nutrition. But the focus is on that. And now I'm really conflicted about this PMMA stuff. And when I say I'm conflicted is, I don't know, like, well, I know what I think about it. I don't particularly care for it. The whole concept to me of having plastic muscles just does not, I don't know, does not do anything for me. But it seems like a lot of people are like, yeah, it's fine. It's just fine to have that. I remember when Rich Piana came to me when he was, full of it, and he actually wanted me to prep him for a contest, the last contest he competed in, and he showed me his arm, and it was like 24 inches. And I said to him, "What's in your arm?" And he said, "Oh, nothing, just site injections." I said, "Come on, Rich, this is me. I can see there's something in your arm. There's no separation, like, anywhere. It's just like it looked like a soccer ball was stuck in his arm." And but
I mean, usually you lose the definition.
Yeah, he had it was one mass. There was like no separation between his bicep and tricep at all. And I knew what he was doing, and I knew what was there. But I also knew he was just like a circus freak, But I never thought that would go into competition, like on a top level, because I just figured you could tell, looking at it, that it didn't look right. And now there's people, I'm not accusing anybody, but there's people being accused on the top level of having PMMA in them. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people are saying, it's fine. And I'm curious what your thoughts are about that.
So I know what you're referring to, but I'm like, first of all, I'm like, for something to be illegal or cheating or whatever, there has to be a regulation about it. And I agree. I think um, we shouldn't move towards a more unhealthy sport. In my career, I have, there wasn't this PMMA, through my career. That was Synthol.
Mhm.
And I have several times been actually recommended by coaches. You should do a little, you should do a little here, you should do a little here. But I was always scared of it because, I mean, oil inside your muscles, and I've seen people do it. I have a friend who has it in his arms, and they're like so knotted up, like you were talking about. It gets hard and tissue. You get like edges. I mean, you can really like fuck yourself up, and I believe you can get like blood clots because if
Mhm.
everything lays in there like cement, So I was always like, I mean, I've always been like, there's also a life after bodybuilding. You can't put everything like in jeopardy. I mean, there's already some risks that you have to like determine with yourself, like if you want to take or not. Like, it's just is that like this in pro sports that you got to take some type of hormones, and there's nobody who's natty there, and that's also like something substantial that you got to consider and make a decision on. And for me, synthol was like, uh, I've always been scared of it. Like, to be honest, like I kind of knew like, okay, hormones, it's something natural in your body. I mean, even women have testosterone, even though in like a lot less levels. But I still felt like that's something we have in our body. And this was more like a foreign material. So I've never been a fan of it. And I think they should regulate for it. But as long as it's not regulated, I mean, you're talking about Natalia. You can't take her title away. In my opinion, she looked the best anyway. Like, not, apart from they say she put it in her legs. I thought even the year before she should have won. I mean, I'm a great fan of her physique because she's so curvy. I think she has the perfect body for a women's physique. But you cannot take her title away for something that's not regulated.
Right.
So, but I'm not a fan of synthol PMMA and putting things in your body that's plastic or oil or not natural. It's simply because it's an extra health hazard, and we do not want to make this sport more unhealthy. But you can't go backwards, like if it's not regulated and say, oh, it's cheating. It's like we know athletes have used site enhancement, whether it was one thing on another product. It's been used for decades, like
Right.
I think mainly by males. And yeah, as the sport grows more extreme on the male and female side, that's evolution. Evolution happens in any type of sports. So it was a matter of time when women also were going to use it. And I just didn't like the whole, like, how it came about. Like, the day after the Olympia, Sarah said, oh, you used it, so I should have won. You know,
Right.
it comes just across. I mean, she could have also said it like when Natalia won Pittsburgh, was a month earlier or something, you know. But coming out the day after Olympia, it's like we've never seen any of the males do this. I mean, I know for a fact with those people that I have worked with through my careers, trainers, coaches, and so forth, and there was some were, you kind of know who was what can you say, the injectors in the sport. That is sort of like, oh, you should go to him. He's really good at, he can put a little in your ear delts, he can put a little here, and it will just pop more. I mean, trust me, I've had these offers before, and it's been there for so long. And I've never heard any of the guys be like, oh, you know, I should have beat him, or he should have, and that was not fair because he did. In a sport where it's like, it's not.
We lost her again. I'm sure she'll be back in a moment, though. This is the connection. She's coming to us from Africa, so it's a long distance. I'm sure she'll be right back in a minute. By the way, I am reading your comments, and I appreciate the interaction because we do want to know what you guys think as well. I'm sure she's trying to log back in. I got this shirt at the Olympia. Yeah, I actually bought it at the Olympia. Well, I'm waiting for Helle to log back in with us. I've talked about PMMA and synthol in the past. I'm not a fan of it, but I do understand that it has become part of the sport, and I'm just not sure how they're going to deal with it, or if they're going to deal with it, because technically it's not banned. And the other thing is, even if it is, how do you test for that? Are you going to MRI every single competitor, or an ultrasound every single competitor? I don't know. It's that's a tricky thing to do. Just the cost of it would be so expensive, but I do think something needs to be done. I think Helle's probably trying to log back in. Give it a couple minutes. I just messaged her. She's trying to get back in. I guess she's coming to us from Africa, so it's a long distance to travel through the internet. No, I'm texting her. So she's trying to log back in. She knows. She's been able to get back in, so hopefully we'll just give her a minute. Why do females take gear? Why any sane female would risk turning into a man is insanity. Well, okay. To your comment, Um, there's extremes in everything. I don't agree. Okay, Helle's back.
All right, I'm back.
You're in. So, anyways, I just
Yeah. So
uh, go
what I
ahead.
was saying about that is just I think they need to regulate about that. I think um, I really don't like this whole drama there's been about it, because I don't think it's good for anyone in the sport. And I also think it's disrespectful to the judges, because there was 9 judges that judged and deemed Natalia the winner. And, it's just, you have to have some type of sportsmanship, like we've all been standing on stage sometimes and we didn't get the placement we wanted, and maybe we felt like not smiling or throwing the trophy or the medal or walking out or whatever. We have seen athletes doing that, but you show that sportsmanship. And
Right.
the same here, after a show and you didn't get your placement, you don't take the sweetness away of the win from Natalia. It's not her fault. She won. The judges gave her the title. And, I can't see, with all this drama, how that has not affected Natalia and her being able to win or enjoy her Olympia title. I think it's really bad showmanship, sportsmanship. I think it's really bad towards the IFBB, because she's basically saying they all did a shit job judging. And I think she should have taken up in proper channels if she thinks something was not okay. I've had placement where I thought that was not okay. I should have placed better. I wrote an email and I said, "Oh, can I get some judge feedback, or I have something I want to say?" You take it up privately. But I think the way it was, that came about the day after, with that post where she smeared Natalia and really like spoke bad about her. I think it's vicious, and I think it's a wrong way to go about it.
Well, that
It should have
what
been taken privately up with the IFBB, who are setting the real rules. And right now, there are no rules against site enhancements. And I think there should be, but in this case, I just think the whole drama shit has been really bad for the sport.
well, what she did was out of line. But Derek Lunsford has taken so much hate even before the PMMA thing was brought up, and I just really didn't understand like why people are hating on this guy for winning.
Yeah.
Um, and now this just throws another wrench in the game. Like, they're accusing him of doing it too, and
Right.
I don't know if he did or didn't.
I
Um,
mean, it's always like, if one starts, right, then it's like people are quick to jump on the bandwagon, and then other people gets pulled down. That's why I say it's so bad for the whole sport. Like, this matter should have been taken in private. If they were professional, they should have uh you know taken a conversation with the IFBB and say, we think these substances should be banned. We have concerns about it. Because the how I feel like they kind of backpedaled was, like, first they came out and with this post where Sarah was sitting with all her trophies or her medals in the back, saying that Natalia was doing this PMMA and so forth. First of all, I'm like, no one has seen any evidence for it, and I'm like, even if she did, then it's not illegal. That's my issue. It's not illegal. So if they have a problem with it, take it up privately. discuss it. How can we ban this, or how can we, you know, I mean, I think it's harming. I can't speak about PMMA. Like, I can assume when it's plastic, it can harm you, but I've seen people being harmed by synthol, and I just don't want to see the sport going in an unhealthy direction. But the way this came about was very poorly conducted and very unprofessional. And then they came out later, like they smeared Natalia's name and then came out later and say, oh, it's because we're concerned about the sport. No, if you had been concerned about the sport, you would have
Well,
taken it
not
up
not only
with the
that, but
people in power.
we have a certain influencer who has a channel who it seems like his mission in life is to bring down the IFBB and bring down bodybuilding. You know who I'm
Yep.
talking about. Because
Yep.
that's all he does is shit on the sport.
Yep.
And, you know,
Just propaganda, drama.
and I guess, you know, I guess it gets views because people like drama and they
Yeah.
like controversy.
Yeah. It's entertaining.
Yeah. But yeah, like his mission, that's all he does is, you know, I don't care who Tyler Mannion's sleeping with. It's not like I could care less.
This is
Like
none of nobody's business.
right. But it, you know, it's turned into what is that tabloid that just that tabloid that gossip. It's just a gossip thing.
Yeah. Gossip.
You know what?
Channel, tabloid channel.
Yeah, there's that. Oh, I forget the name of it. One of those newspapers that just TMZ or something like that.
TMZ, yeah.
Yeah, they just promote anything that's scandalous.
Right.
Because people like drama.
Yeah.
So there's that, but I actually have personal experience with synthol, and
Okay.
I do because when Nasser was training me for that 6 weeks, he had me doing it, and I can
What's
tell
your
you.
take?
Well, first of all, he wanted me to do it in my shoulders and my arms, and I've told this story before. I had to do 3 cc's in my rear delt, 3 cc's in my side delt, 3 cc's in my front delt, 3 cc's in the outer bicep head, 3 cc's in the inner bicep head, 3 cc's in the long head of the tricep, 3 cc's in the outer head of the tricep, and 3 cc's in the back head of the tricep.
That sounds like a lot.
3 times a week.
Ooh.
3 times a week. So this was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 16 3 cc's injections. And it has to go 1.5 inches deep into the muscle. So I would literally like prepare these 16 needles, and I'd sit in a chair, and my ex-wife would inject me for an hour.
Wow.
And honestly, it didn't even work because I was dieting. He had me dieting so hard that it didn't even work. So I tried it, and what I mean by it didn't work is like my body was burning through the stuff anyways.
Okay.
Because I was, you know, he had me drop 30 pounds of muscle in that time. Everything he had me do didn't work, but I did try it, and after the competition was over, I tried it again, and it did work because I wasn't dieting. But this is what I learned from it. I got my arms from like 19 inches to 21 inches in a couple of months. And then I saw something that then I understood. I kept training hard because that's, you know, that's just what I do. you can't train with that stuff in your arms, because what happens is if you lift anything heavy, the stuff will leak out of between the muscle fibers and under the skin. So
Okay.
what happens is the oil comes out of the muscle and it goes it's under the skin. And then you have like this layer of oil between the muscle and the skin, and you can see it.
Okay.
And it's blurring all the definition because there's a layer of oil there. So first of all, if someone has it in them, they can't train with any kind of intensity on the muscle that it's in, because again, it'll leak out. That's one. So then when you stop doing it, because after I saw that, I stopped doing it. Well, when you stop doing it and your body reabsorbs this stuff, it's like you blew up a balloon full of water, and then you let the water out and it shrivels up. And that's what happens. So you can't train hard on the muscle when it's in there. And then when you stop doing it, because you haven't been training, the muscle's atrophied and you expanded that muscle out. And now when the stuff comes out, guess what happens? You have a
does the
saggy,
muscle get kind of droopy?
the muscle is like saggy and it's weak. And I can tell you, there's a Mr. Olympia who's very popular. I'm not going to put him on blast, but if you look at his biceps, he's still in great shape, but his biceps in particular, they're saggy. You can see like they like droop down, and there's like this loose skin because they used to be like blown up much bigger than they are.
Right.
So unless you keep doing it, forever, that's what happens. Besides the health aspects, I'm sure it's not healthy for you because, blood can't circulate to that muscle when it's full of stuff.
But I thought it would be trapped in there. I thought it wouldn't come out. Because I guess it's also like a matter of like what you took, because
well,
like
this
I
is
said,
that,
I
this is
had
a
a friend
synthol,
that put it in his arms, and it's still there after many years. He had a partial lump, like surgically removed, because it's like everything has hardened. It's like cement now. And he said it was cutting off his blood supply to his shoulder. Like his arm went numb, and so but he still needs more removed. But it's like no doctors really want to touch it because it's so complex, like basically the whole arm is like just cement,
well,
and it's sort of also a bit in pieces.
so here's what happened in that situation. The oil itself is just medium chain triglycerides. It's just like oil. And the
And it
oil
gets maybe
itself,
encapsulated, right? That's what I'm thinking.
no, the oil will absorb over time. It'll absorb back into the body, or it can even be drained out. But it'll either be absorbed or you can drain it out. So it's not permanent. What happens though is when people do so much of it for a long period of time. I knew a guy. He had a 21-inch arms, and he was like 5'5", and you could see they were very pointy. Like his biceps were pointy, and his triceps were pointy. They didn't. Didn't look
I've
right.
seen that before.
They didn't look
where
right.
it's kind of like they're tall and thin.
Yeah. But anyways, he had so much oil in his arms that he was building up scar tissue in his arms from sticking it with big needles, because you can't put that in there with an insulin needle. It has to go deep. And he was injecting it with an 18 gauge horse needle. So what happens is, from sticking all that in there, it created scar tissue. And that's what happened with Nasser. Nasser told me when I met him, he told me that the scar tissue was growing in his body like a cancer. and he was getting all these deep tissue work to try to get it out because it was spreading like cancer, the scar tissue through his body from all of the stuff he did. And he told me that in the evening. The next morning we met up to train. He flexes his bicep and he's like, I did it here, here, and here. And I'm just thinking to myself, last night you told me it was killing you. And this morning you're showing me where you did it again.
Right.
So this guy's
That
got
doesn't make sense.
but like, I guess, in his head, he had to stay big. And it wasn't the training that was making him big, it was that.
Right.
So, and I think that's why he trained the way he did with all that light pumping. Because like I said, you can't train heavy with this stuff because it'll leak out.
Right.
So that's why you'll see these guys, doing the cable rope thing, and they're doing like 1,000 reps with 20 pounds.
Yeah.
Because that's all they can do.
Right.
If they do anything more, it'll leak out. So that's the synthol or pump and pose, whatever brand, but it's basically medium chain triglycerides. But I hear in Brazil they inject motor oil or any kind of thing.
It's just, to me, it's just so dangerous. Like, just everything about it. It's just a foreign object that should not be in your body.
Right. And now you get to the PMMA, that's literally plastic. They're putting plastic in their muscle. And the problem with the PMMA is it permanently bonds to the muscle. So in other words, once it's in there, you can't take it out. And there was a Brazilian talk show host who put it in her butt, and her body rejected it. They had to amputate half of her butt and her hamstring on one side. And she laid in the hospital for over a year and almost died.
Wow.
Because you can't take it out. They had to cut out all the muscle where it went. So
wow.
Yeah, it's like once it's there, that stuff is permanent. There's no getting rid of it.
Right.
So that right there is, you can't tell me that having plastic in your muscles is healthy.
No.
It's gotta be
I
toxic.
think none of these things. I've also heard stories of people thinking they can put regular household oil in their arms. It's
Like I said, in Brazil, these guys are putting motor oil in their arms. And of course they're dying when they do it.
Yeah. No, that's not worth it.
But I think that, the wrong message is being sent. I know it's not banned, but when it's getting to the point where, the general public is going to they already look at us and think it's just steroids. We don't train hard. We just take steroids and sit around and grow big, which is not true.
Right.
But now this is when you start putting plastic in your muscles. Well, this is true. You're just, it's not, there's no effort going into that. You went to someplace and they put plastic in you. And, I know when Rich Piana did it and somehow he was popular anyways, but I always looked at it like, okay, I'm not impressed. Like, you're full of plastic. I know you're the biggest thing anybody's seen, and I think most people at that time, they didn't know what he was doing.
Right.
But now that we know, I saw that, you remember that Golem guy that passed away a couple of years ago? He was like the next Rich Piana. He was trying to be Rich Piana.
What was his name?
Is Golem. He was a Russian. Big Russian. He was a team 5%er. And he got up to like 400 pounds.
Right.
And I saw him at an expo walking around. And when I stood up close to him, I could see in his arms, there was all these knots. Like, somehow in the pictures, you couldn't see it. But when I stood next to him, he had like these knots in his arms. They like
Right.
you could see like it was just like chunks of stuff sticking out all over
Right.
the place. And of course, he died
Yeah.
young too. And I don't know if it was from just that or that and trying to be 400 pounds,
Right.
the whole combination of it all. But I always thought that, it's going to be just in the circus freaks. And I didn't think it would make it to the top level of bodybuilding because I just figured it'd be too obvious. You could see it and it wouldn't look good. And so the judges would mark it down.
Right.
But now I'm not so sure. Like, honestly, with Natalia, um, I think she looked amazing overall. Um, and if we didn't see before and after pictures, I don't think you would have known looking at it.
I mean, I couldn't tell. I didn't feel like she's lost some definition. I always thought you would, but then again, I'm not really
No,
familiar with PMMA. I'm only
she,
familiar with the synthol, where it's like, we've all seen synthol arms, and they don't split. You
right.
don't have good definition if you did that. So I was a bit under the same impression that, I mean, I was thinking the males pros would do synthol, but I was thinking it would probably to a less degree, that they kind of maybe like side enhance a little, make the rear delt pop a little, like so little that it wouldn't, take away from the physique and blur
Well,
the lines.
there, if let's say you put, you know, 3 cc's in your bicep, it'll bring the peak up on your bicep. But if you try to
Right.
grow your arm 3 inches, you're going to get the oil leaking out and you're going to get the blurry look
Right.
and you're not going to see the definition. So
Yeah.
I think people overdo it and that's where you can see it.
Right.
In Natalia's case, if you had not seen her compete a few months earlier, and compared before and after pictures, I don't think you would know. I don't
Right.
think you could tell, but you could see she competed a few months before and she didn't have the sweep on her outer quads that she all of a sudden had.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was definitely, you can see that there's a big change. It's like she
Right.
grew 2 or 3 inches on each sweep of her quad in a matter of months.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm pretty sure she did something.
Right.
The question is, like, what do you do about that? Or, how do they,
I mean, my personal opinion is, I think, I mean, it's a tough question, because I basically think it should be regulated just to protect the athletes, because I really do think it's a health hazard. And I think it's more of a health hazard than taking hormones. So of course, you can also overdo it, but if you want a long career, I mean, I have been taking hormones for 30 years. I'm healthy. My blood work is healthy. I've taken my breaks. I've been uh, sensible about, my dosages and what I've been taking. And it's possible to be a pro and be, you know, and consider your health. It's not healthy, but you can do it in a very unhealthy way. Close your eyes, don't do blood work, don't do, supplementation with your Totka and your NAC and your
Mhm.
there's things where you can remedy it and say, okay, I'm going to do all I can to stay as healthy as possible. um so I feel like with hormones you can, um what can I say, you can,
not
you
overdo
you
it?
You cannot overdo it, and you can always like manage the risk factors.
Right.
Where I feel like with putting plastic and oil and stuff in your body, how do you manage the risk factors? You know, it's like it's a foreign object. For me, I feel like it's more dangerous, and that's why I never did it. You can't take it out again. It's something that you just should not have in your body. I think they should regulate it, but then the question is like with those that already did it now, you could say the heat got on Natalia, but maybe there are also others we don't know about who
Oh,
also has.
I'm sure there's plenty.
She's probably not the only one. I mean, men
No.
and women. So what do you do with those who already have it? I mean, and also there will be people you don't know have it. Like, are you going to test everybody? You know, so it's like you can't really do anything about it, but in that term, but I think there should be a regulation that those types of, what can you say, fillers are forbidden to use. And then going forward, you can penalize it, or I don't know if you can test for it. I guess you can take an MRI.
Someone was saying you could do an ultrasound, but
Right.
the problem is, what are you going to ultrasound every single competitor at every show? And
It's
you're going to
really
ultrasound their whole
difficult.
body? I mean, that's expensive.
I mean, it's a really tough question.
Yeah,
It's
I don't know if
how
the
you're
I
gonna
don't know if the IFBB is
monitor that.
capable of enforcing any kind of rules or regulations around it, because just the costs involved of trying to prove that someone has it or not.
I mean, maybe you could just at least like regulate it and forbid it, and then if there's any, like, you could say extreme cases, then say, okay, we want to have a ultrasound test here.
Yeah, I think they could spot check. Well, this is what they do in powerlifting when there's like I run powerlifting or natural meets and non-natural meets, in other words, drug tested or not. And we don't test everybody in the meet. We only test basically the winner, and somebody randomly is chosen, you know, to get tested from each division. So there's
Right.
like 4 or 5 people getting tested out of, 60 people competing, but we don't know who that's going to be. It's just like randomly chosen somehow from the computer.
Right.
And usually the winner is, going to get tested as well. So I think if the winner is tested, or even like the top 2, that's going to be a great deterrent, because everybody wants to be the winner. And if they tested the top 2, I mean, obviously if they test positive and they lose their title for it, then they're not going to be the winner. The question, like you just brought up a good point that I hadn't even thought about. What do you do about those people that already have it in them?
Right. That's the thing.
I mean, they put it in there when there was no rule against it. And now
Exactly.
you make a rule, and then what are you going to do? It's already there.
Yeah. And then, as you said, if you can't take it out, what then?
You can't take it out.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know what to say about that. Yeah, because it's already there.
It's super complex.
Mm-hmm. There's no easy solution to this whole thing.
No,
but
not at all.
On the flip side, if they don't do anything at all, and people keep winning, and word gets out that this is what's going on, I think more people are going to do it, because
that's the problem.
Because it's getting rewarded.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Had some questions specifically relating to I didn't really get into your background so much in the beginning because you've talked about it on other podcasts. So I thought people may be familiar with it, but someone just asked, how did you get into bodybuilding and PEDs?
I really just started to train when I started. Like I did dabble in high school a little bit. Like every time we had gym class, I was not so fond of all the ball sports. I loved the weights, so I always asked the coach if I could go in the weight room. So we were like a group. We would just go in the weight room and lift weights. So it started early then. But when I started in college, it was like, all the high school sports were kind of finished, and I wanted to just do something that was more flexible. Like when I had like more homework and more responsibilities, I wanted something that I wasn't so tied down to. Like if you go to basketball class or whatever, and it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 8 o'clock, right? So I felt like the gym was a great option. And I had a friend that invited me to the powerlifting competition at the gym. So I went, and I already had in my mind that it could be a good sport for me just to do the gym because it was so flexible time wise. You can train alone or with a friend, or whenever it fits in your schedule. So I went there, and I thought it was absolutely amazing. It was just like, it was like we talked about back in the day with this like club spirit. It was more like a club. Everybody knew each other, and everybody was high-fiving, and they did it really like super professional with judges and everything, and people were cheering, and
Mm-hmm.
the chalk in the air, and it was just like the vibes were just so great, and people were so supportive, and everybody was talking to everybody, and I was just like, wow, it's like also a community, and I was like, I want to be part of this. I already met a girl there that I arranged we were going to be training buddies, and I signed up the same day, and that's how I got started. And then just like she was had been training for a while, and we started training together, and she had things she could teach me, and then I met a guy at the gym, and we started dating, and he was even more into bodybuilding and took me to all the shows and to FIBO, and knew like opened up the world like regarding like supplements and nutrition and stuff. And I learned a lot from him about how to eat. Like he was like really like this super bodybuilder, like with the meals and meal timing and the
Right.
macros, and so I learned a lot there, and I thought it was super interesting, and I was really into it, and I really loved training hard. I remember in the beginning I trained every day. Like I didn't know there was such thing that you had to like take a break, like have an off
Right.
day. I just trained every day because I was so like into it.
Right.
I was just happy training. I love the feeling. I love the feel of like, getting a pump and pushing yourself and getting stronger. And I also reacted really well to training, got quickly stronger, and put on muscle quickly. I had good genetics for it. I had no idea, but you know my body just happened to fit in there. And I was always like, I've done sports all my life. So my parents put me in a gymnastic class when I was 3. And I did that until I was 10. I did martial arts for a few years. I had my own horse for 10 years. I did swimming, also like competitive swimming. I did so many, even ballroom dancing. I did so many different things. I was very active growing up, and I was like more muscular, like bigger than a lot of other um, like girls in my class. And it was
Right.
like at the time when you're a teenager and you want to be skinny and stuff. So I actually started in the gym also like to be skinny, because that's like when you're like 15, like you're 6, I
Right.
was like, I guess I was 16 or something. You just want to look good for the boys and self-image, and you want to like be skinny, you know. And then, I mean, I always had big legs growing up, big calves, and felt like I should like be smaller because that's kind of how you're taught through society. Being a woman, you should be small and petite, right?
Right.
And I started training, and it's like the opposite happened. And instead of fighting my body, like I've had like a lot of, you know, my mom dieted a lot, and that kind of rubbed off on me that I was sort of always on some type of diet or diet trend or not eating or whatever, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of fighting my body, trying to always get smaller and weigh less, I was kind of like, you know what? This is how my body wants to go. And I was like, oh, there's a sports for it actually where muscles is an advantage. I don't have to fight to get smaller. I don't have to starve myself to get smaller. Like at some point when I was a teenager, I had anorexia. I wasn't eating, or I was throwing up the food. You know, I was trying to like get smaller because I was a big
Right.
girl. I have wide clavicles, you know, like I have big bones or whatever you want to say.
Right.
And I was always fighting to get skinnier. And then I started training. I was just like, you know what, fuck it. If my body wants to be muscular, then so be it. You know, I found myself, and I was like, maybe I can do something. Maybe I can be good at this. And I tested myself out for a show, and I won it. And I went to the Danish Nationals. I won it. I qualified for the Scandinavian Championships. I won it. I was like, damn, okay, maybe this is for me, you know, and I just continued.
Yeah, I think that people that are going to excel, they're going to know pretty quick. Like for myself, I was a skinny kid when I was 13 when I started, and I basically did it because I was a skinny kid getting picked on by older, bigger kids in school, and I just wanted to get bigger to defend myself. Um, and that was my motivation getting into it. But then, my body responded fast. I think between the age of like 14 and 16, I put on like 80 pounds. And
Wow, that's impressive.
yeah, and this is before any PEDs. I just grew, but I was training really hard even that young because I was training around those top bodybuilders, and yeah, my body just went fast. And then I won my first competition at 16, and as soon as I won that, it was like, okay, this is it. I'm in. Like I was hooked on it right then, and then I kept competing as a teenager, and as you win and you keep winning, you're like, okay, well, I guess I could be good at this. And I think either you have the genetics or you don't for a lot of
Right.
people. And you were just like naturally you had the genetics to excel in this. So
Yeah.
as you
I
said,
mean, I always say like everyone can better their physique. Everyone can build muscle, no matter what age. Everyone can really like improve at any time in their age or in their age or life. But the thing about becoming extraordinary, going the competition route, and really becoming a champion, it's not just training, it's not just PEDs, it's not just eating. You have to have the genetics as well.
yeah, I think at the top level, genetics are probably the most important part.
I mean, if you look at Samson Dauda, he was never a small guy. If you saw like pictures of him when he was young, he was still muscular.
right.
Also Phil Heath, if you see pictures of him like when he was playing basketball, he was still a big dude. Not big like that, but he was still very muscular.
Well, Ronnie Coleman said he had 20-inch arms before he picked up a weight.
Right? I mean, it's like, yeah, you got to have, it's many things you got to have genetics for. You can talk about, like, you got to be able to respond really well to weight training. You got to be able to have good recovery. You got to also assimilate the food really well. Like, like some people, they can eat 5,000 calories and they just don't put on any weight. Maybe they got to eat 8,000 calories, and if they miss meals a couple of days, they lose 5 pounds. That's not ideal for bodybuilding.
Right.
Like, of course, it's good to have a good metabolism, but the question is also like, how well do you absorb your food? Do you really absorb and digest well, and really is your body efficient in putting that food to work? And then there's another thing also, if we're talking PEDs, how well do you tolerate PEDs, and how good are your receptors to uptake the PEDs and react to that?
This is actually, you brought up a good point. I actually had a debate with one of my co-hosts on a show 2 days ago. And we were talking about the biggest freak bodybuilders of all time. And I brought up Greg Kovacs. I don't know if you know who Greg Kovacs is. He was a Canadian bodybuilder, 6'5". He weighed like 400 pounds at one time. And I actually met Greg Kovacs in person a couple of times. And I met him at the Olympia one year, and they were doing like the Meet the Olympia guys. And he had no line. There was like nobody waiting to see him for whatever reason. And so I was just talking to him for a while. And I asked him what he took. And he said, I take Anadrol and HGH. That's all I take. And I thought, well, that's interesting, but like, why would he lie about that? I mean, Anadrol is very strong. HGH is not nothing. But my co-host said he did lie. He said that's bullshit. No way he got that big taking Anadrol and GH. And I strongly disagree, because first of all, the guy was 6'5" and 350 pounds in contest shape. I don't care what cycle of drugs you're taking. If you don't have genetics to do that, you're just not going to do that.
Right.
So who's to say if he took 200 milligrams of Anadrol a day and 10 units of GH, that wouldn't grow him to that size with his genetics?
Right. And I mean, I am sure you've also seen it as a coach, like you have some people, you can give them very little and there's very big output, like really extraordinary results. And then there's others, you give very little, nothing happens. You give them more, nothing happens. You give them more, nothing happens. And then it's almost like you got to see, you know what, it's too bad, but there's a limit to how much you should take, because then it's just side effects. And if you don't really have a good response to it, then maybe you should just either compete in natty or, it's just not for you.
Well, my ex personally, and I lived with her for 10 years. And she's built like,
she's like a tank.
And I know for fact that she took very, very little ever. She just is.
I know too. I mean, I trained her for several years, so she's just that natural. Like, also like natural big girl, like she was a big girl even before she started lifting.
Well, her father was 6'5",
right?
He was a big dude. So I mean, she was just that way. Right. I mean, when I met her, I don't think she had taken drugs yet, and she was already built. and then
I mean, it matters a lot. And you can also look at the parents, like you said, like my mom didn't work out, but we had a farm and we had stables. She was like freaking shoveling manure and she had biceps, she had like big bulgy biceps just from working in the barn, it's like, yeah, I mean, genetics, it's a real thing.
yeah, I mean, I know for fact, I mean, I'm sure she doesn't mind me saying it, a little bit of Anavar and a little bit of Primo, and there it is.
I
And
mean, I think you saw the podcast I was on with Paul, where I also said, like women, they don't need that much, like they react. The majority of the women I work with, they reacted very well on just not big dosages.
yeah, because you're hyper responsive, because for a woman, the receptors are even more sensitive, because you don't
Yeah,
naturally have high energy in your system. So
yeah,
a little bit goes a long way.
goes a long way. Yep, exactly.
And on the other flip side, I know some women bodybuilders that take a lot of harsher compounds, and I'm just thinking, like, why do you think you need to do this? I Because I don't know if they're like growing more from that.
Right.
I just don't. I'm not sure if it's making that difference, or if they just think they need to take it,
I
or
think I think like dosaging is really important. I mean, there's of course with bodybuilders, I mean, there's something to say for different seasons, like for males as well. Like if you're in contest prep, um, I mean, I'm always differentiating between like, okay, are you an amateur? Are you just getting started? Or are you a seasoned pro? And for me, for instance, like I wouldn't do a show a contest prep without doing master on, but I do very little dosages. But just what that compound does for me
right.
gives me a lot of hardness, but that doesn't mean I need a big dose. Then I might not want to do a masteron in the off season, but I may, I'm also like a bit older now. My joints are brittle. Deca works really well for my joints. So my preferred off season would be a long ester test and some Deca, but still my dosage is smaller than a man would do for a TRT.
Right.
It's and I'm getting great results. So it's a lot. Of course, it's also compound related, but it's a lot dose related. It's really not necessary to take that much.
Well, even right now, my all I take is 250 milligrams of tests, and I take 30 milligrams of NPP 4 times a week. And I break up my test dosage up into 4 times a week too. So
Right.
that's 120 milligrams of NPP,
NPP. Yeah.
which is,
Yeah,
nanograms of
which is
propionate.
very
But
little, but I'm sure
my
it does wonders for your joints.
the reason I take it is not for the muscle building. It's because, like, literally, if I don't take it, my joints hurt like hell.
Yeah,
And when I take it, my joints don't hurt. I can train heavy and hard, and I don't get injured.
yeah, yeah.
Simple as
I
that.
feel the same way. Like my joints just feel better.
Yeah, it's just my number one reason for taking it is, like, I don't hurt all the time.
Mm,
And I can't take any kind of Masteron or anything like that because it dries me out instantly. Now,
right.
for contests, I used to do that, but right now, like, if I take any kind of DHT, my joints are aching within a few weeks.
Mm.
So I just
Yeah,
don't even go there.
I'm the same way. Like I don't like to take things that dry out my joints when I'm off season. Like I will do it when I'm in prep because I need to, and it works. It dries me out, but it's for a short period, you know.
I usually use those things with my competitors no more than 4 weeks before show,
Yeah.
because like you don't need to be looking shredded 3 months out,
Nope.
and all you're doing is like manipulating fluid at
Yeah.
that point. So like why in the world would you want to take that, 4 months out from the show when you still need to be training hard and you're dieting hard as well? I don't
Right.
understand that logic. But
Yeah.
that is a thing nowadays, is people in the off season they're taking Primo and Mastron.
I think it's a lot related to social media. You know, this I mean, like we talked about back in the day, you know, like when we were off season, we would just wear like some big shirts and some big hoodies, and we
Mhm.
would have a bit of fluff on the bodies. You know, we weren't in shape all the time. Not to say you should get fat, but I was usually like a little chunky off season. Like I'm also not an ectomorph, but that was just the time to pack the calories and train heavy and get the muscle on, and then you would just train in a t-shirt or a hoodie. Like
Right.
today, it's like everybody is training in a little sports bra or a stringer top, because they got to film. You go to the gym and you're falling over all the tripods because
So
that's
people
what
think they need
social
to be
media.
looking shredded all the time.
Exactly, because they're content creators.
Mm.
That's the thing.
But
It's that social media
you have
age we're
a bunch
living
you
in.
have a bunch of coaches promoting this as like the way to do it.
I don't agree with it. I don't agree with getting fat because you need to get it off again. And it can get really difficult, and you have to work a really long time to get it off if you get too fat. But
Right.
I also don't agree with running around in contest shape, 5-7% fat all year round. It's not healthy.
Well,
It's
we're
not.
talking about two different things. One is body fat, and one is water manipulation. And
Yeah.
when you're talking about running Deca versus Mastron, it's not a body
I,
fat
I
thing.
I've heard many say they don't want to run DECA because it causes water retention. I've heard that a lot.
But
But
the
I always say, you know what? Off season, you want the water retention. You
right,
want, because it's in your joints, it's in your muscle. I mean, yeah, there might be some water in your skin as well, like that. But the majority of the water will be in the muscle because that's where you store a lot of water. That's mainly,
right.
water the muscle consists of, and your joints will just be more lubricated. They'll feel better. That way you can lift heavier. You won't have aches and pains. You have less risk of injury. You want that water. The same with, like, I never understood like this restriction of salt, and don't eat salt, and salt is unhealthy. No, if you're very obese and you eat a lot of processed food and you have a heart condition, you shouldn't pour salt on your food. But if you're a bodybuilder and you eat super clean, where's the salt at? There's no salt in super clean food. You need to salt your food and get that salt to um, pull that water. Salt is an electrolyte. It pulls the water into the muscle.
I actually salt my water.
Yeah, I do too. Or
Yeah,
I take, like, before workout, I'll take like a pinch of salt.
I make a thing, a gallon and a half every day to stand everything cooler. I put my aminos in there, glutamine, emergency pack with the vitamin C and minerals, and I have this Baja mineral salt, which is mostly salt, but it has some magnesium, potassium as well, and chloride. And I put a whole tablespoon of that in there.
Ah, nice.
And
you definitely get your electrolytes.
Yeah,
with the mineral pack and everything. It's so important.
If I don't drink that, I get dehydrated.
Right.
I literally go through a gallon and a half to 2 gallons a day. And if I don't drink it, I literally get dehydrated.
Right.
Yeah, the minerals are super important.
Super important.
So we've had quite a bit of questions. I think we've covered a lot of stuff, actually.
Yeah, I think we'll talk for like 3 hours or so.
Yeah, I think we've covered a lot. We could talk all day.
Yeah, we can. I mean, we're both good talkers.
Well, I'm just saying, we have so much time and experience in this. I feel like when I'm talking to you, I can actually have an actual like real conversation because you get it. We're like on the same page. Sometimes when I'm talking to these younger people, it's like everything I'm saying is going right over their head. They just don't have no concept of what I'm talking about.
Well, it's also, I mean, experience. I mean, we've trained so many years, it's like I've trained like 35 years now, been a pro 22 years, competed 27 years. So it's like there's so much knowledge behind. There's so much just what I talked about putting in the toolbox. There's so many topics that we can touch on.
There's I'll tell you this. You can read studies till the end of time, but if you not actually experience some things yourself, you're not going to understand it.
No. Oh my God. It just reminds me, I just saw a post with a new young coach in his 20s. And he made a post on that saying women, they don't need to titrate down when they're on gear. And I commented on it and say, yes, you do need to do that. That's a fact. And he said, it's a fact that you don't need to as a woman, and that's up to your interpretation. And I'm like, look, I am a woman. I've been taking PEDs for so many years. I've worked as a coach with hundreds of women. And it's like, it's even like common sense. His logic was like, women don't produce tests, so we don't have to titrate down because, it's not a matter of like, we need our test to come up again. But it's a matter of like also, how you feel and what it does to you also mentally. If you're, for instance, on like a quick test and you say you are on like propionate, 50 milligrams every other day or whatever, and then you just stop, maybe you're on a couple other things, some orals or whatever, you just stop and you go from, I don't know, maybe your test is 25 and you go down to nothing the next week and everything just says, it just crashes.
Yeah, I mean, your body's going to crash.
You think that's healthy to just crash everything like that? And like, I worked with so many women where they came to me and they said, oh, wow, I never tapered out. I just stopped after the show. And I'm like, how do you feel? Yeah, I'm usually depressed. And I'm like, well, we're doing it this way. And then they come and say, wow, I felt so much better this time. Like I haven't gotten depressed. I just felt better because your hormones, I mean, it's the same. That's why we say, okay, it's better to take smaller dosages of tests, right? Instead of like taking huge injections once a week or every 2 weeks or whatever. If today they're even going into microdosing, taking, I know many, they take a little test every day with the insulin syringe. So the more stable you can keep your hormones, the more everything just functions better. And also mentally, you're just more stable. If you get big swings
Peaks and
in your
valleys.
hormones, peaks and valleys, that's not good. And the same as like you just drop all your pets, just bam, and and your hormones just, they do crash. It's not about that we don't have a testosterone. Yeah, we do have testosterone in our body. Actually, we don't produce testosterone the same way men does, but we do have some. But of course, very little. But that, you know, disregard that. But you know, it's gonna crash so hard that you're gonna feel like crap. And I told him also, like, you know, I've tried it to just stop, and I felt like crap. I was depressed. I felt moody. I felt just very, just very disbalanced. You know, moody, mood swings, depressed, stuff like that. And I've heard that from so many women. So he was talking about, this is scientific fact that women don't produce tests and we don't need to titrate down. And I'm like, who are you to say that? You're a 20-something year old and you're talking about some scientific study. I mean, I have experience with that through decades.
I'll give you a worse scenario. I have, through my insurance, I have my primary care physician. I have a gastroenterologist because I have Crohn's. I have a cardiologist just to check on my heart. And I have an endocrinologist. My endocrinologist was assigned to me 2 years ago. I've never met him in person, only telehealth appointments. He has been arguing with me because he wants me to take the test once every 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, no, I take it like 4 times a week. I don't do it every day, but I spread it out. And he was mad at me because, like, on my blood work, he's like, when did you take your last shot? I'm like, 2 days before the test. And he's like, I told you to wait 2 weeks. I'm like, I'm not going to wait 2 weeks. So we've gotten a kind of I played this game with him for like a while where I, like, before the test, I just stopped taking everything just to make him happy. So then my test would crash. And I'm like, why am I playing this game? You know, my test is not like that high anyways. It's like 800 nanograms per deciliter. Well, for him, he thinks that's high. And of course, he says, a person your age should not look like you do. Oh, well, should I look like you do? Because you look like you're about to die. But he's about my age.
But also what I discovered, like,
but this is a guy that's an endocrinologist who, you know, supposedly studied this stuff and should know, but he doesn't know. He knows whatever he learned in medical
whatever was
20 years ago.
Textbook, 20 years ago.
And that's all he knows. And so this is a never-ending debate, you know.
But also the thing is, you know, their knowledge is theoretical and maybe also some very old theoretical knowledge. Whereas with us, we basically, we're our own guinea pigs. You know, we experiment, say, oh, if that works once a week, okay, let's try twice a week. I've been like dabbling with a retatrutide, and I took it once a week, which is like, according to studies, and when they developed it, they have developed it so that it's it has a long effect, and you only need to take it once a week. So when I took it once a week, it took my appetite so much that I couldn't eat anything. Like, I literally had zero appetite. And, you know, I was even in my off season, but I sort of like, I wasn't on PEDs and I wanted to maybe just lean out a little bit. gotten a little bit fat over the summer. I did some vacation, wanted to lean out a little bit before I started my off season and really was going to eat. And I found myself like, just, this is not bad, because I couldn't get chicken down. I couldn't get nothing down. Like everything was like, and I was like, I mean, I'm going to lose muscle here. So I started taking it twice a week, and it was like sort of a little bit better. Then I started taking it every day. And then I found like, if I took it every day, it took the side effects away. Like I literally like, also with when I took it once a week, I had sometimes I was like so nauseated, like really like just nauseated, like really like just the thought of food was like, you know. So if I took it every single day, it worked really well for me. And that also says something about if the levels are just very stable and not like, you know, because everything has a half-life. So even if you say like for test or whatever, it has a week half-life. So you just need to take it once a week. It's still like, it means that after a week or what is it, 5 days or something, there's half of it left.
Right.
So it's still like, it's still going that way.
And it peaks in 24 hours, within 24 hours, and then it starts to decline.
Right.
So every week you're going like this.
Yeah, exactly. That was my point.
Yep.
So why would you? So,
well,
yeah, I mean,
because again, you know, when they learned this in medical school 25 years ago, that's just what they were told, and that's all they know. And they've never experienced personally.
No, they don't experience. It's all theoretical knowledge. I mean, we would always know better because we live it.
Yeah. Well, we've covered a lot, and we're going on 3.5 hours almost.
Yeah. I think we should probably just say call it a night, and we'll do another one. Another one another day.
And I think people get a lot of information out of this. So anything you want to promote, or how can I put in the description your links, but how can people reach you?
Yeah. If people want to follow me, it's Helle Trevino on Instagram, on YouTube, Facebook, Snapchat. And also, if any of you guys interested in being coached by me, I am part of Team for Pro. We are 3 pros coaching, and we do everything from lifestyle, weight loss, competition prep. I have prepped several athletes for Olympia qualifications and Olympia participations. So we have a little bit of the whole spectrum. So Team for Pro coaching on Instagram. Find me, shoot me a message either there or on my personal Instagram if you're interested in hearing more about coaching, what I can do for you. I love coaching. I love helping people reach their goals, and just overall, you know, it's like I have the best job ever because I always make people happy. I mean, sometimes that people are not always happy with the placements, but usually people are happy with just getting better confidence and better results, more muscle, more lean. So.
And I can honestly say, if I was going to recommend a coach, I would recommend you over probably a lot of other people, most other people, because you just have the experience, and Helle really knows her stuff. She knows what she's doing, and she's proven it over and over again. I mean,
I think that's really important. Like, if anyone are to choose a coach, choose someone with experience, not like somebody who just shot up.
Well, at 50, you don't look 50.
Thank you so much. I mean, you know, longevity is taking care of yourself. It's eating healthy, it's working out, and yeah, I've been in sports for so many years, and I think really the key to youth and longevity is working out and healthy living. And if you want to go the PED route, do it reasonably.
100%. Well, I think we're going to wrap it here. I definitely want to do a part 2 because I want to talk to you about some of those injury things. I heard you had your knee done, and I'm looking at a similar situation. I've been dealing with a knee for a few years now, and
Okay, yeah. I
it
mean,
still works, but I'm
if
going
you
to.
want some more info, also, like, you can just hit me up, and I can send you a few links about that you can look at.
Yeah, I appreciate that, but I want to talk to you about it because I'm sure it'll help other people as well.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
we'll
Yeah, there's
definitely.
some new groundbreaking science out there. So let's do that.
All right. So that's a wrap for today. And we will plan a part 2. By the way, guys, if you have questions, you can shoot Helle Instagram or shoot me an Instagram, and we'll try to answer those questions either directly or on a future podcast as well.
For sure.
And thank you so much for coming on. It was great.
Yeah,
I
thank you
actually really
for
enjoyed doing this.
listening.
No, it was my pleasure. 100%.
Thank you so much.
And we'll definitely keep in touch.
Yes, we will.
I believe that the fires were cast upon, on the flames we shall become. I believe in a common calling.